Good morning, everybody. So it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the final event of the RITHMS project, both here in person and to the guests joining us online. I would like to ask, first of all, to the project officer of this project, Alina Suetsky, to start with a few words of introduction. And I leave the word to Alina to say something about the experience of leading the project management of this project.
Diana, for inviting me. Yes, I was a project officer, but I was collaborating closely with Sebastian, who is joining us as well today, for the implementation of this project and supporting the project to be implemented. For us, we are eager to see the final results and the outcome of this project in the final review. I have seen yesterday during the meeting in the consortium already discussions and more results, and we are thrilled to see them also later on in the final review. The results of this project are important as the art and antiquity market is more and more impacted by organized crime. As you know, for sure, terrorism often use trafficking of cultural goods to generate funds to finance their terrorist-related activities. And work of art and archaeological goods are looted in war zones, but also in regions which are not experiencing conflict. And as you can see also recently, even from museums, and then sold to wealthy collectors and antiquities dealers. As it was foreseen in the work program, some of the questions to which this project was supposed to answer are how are these precious items secretly transported, and what facilitates their illicit movement? What are the relations with other types of crime? How much does the trafficking of cultural goods bring in? What is the role and extension of online markets and social networking in supporting trafficking? For example, discussions, groups where looters and intermediaries exchange tips and tricks to circumvent police checks. How can a stolen work be identified? How should the information be stored in accessible database? And many other questions. RITHMS' overall aim was to provide in-depth understanding of the criminal phenomenon and to contribute to the fight against illicit trafficking of cultural goods through an up-to-date evidence-based research and to develop an innovative digital platform based on social network analysis methodology and equipped with artificial intelligence tools. This technologically cutting-edge platform will actively support law enforcement agencies in crime detection and prevention, streamlining their efforts. So we hope that this platform and the tools developed by RITHMS will be used by law enforcement agencies and further exploited. I have seen yesterday discussions on the exploitation of the results produced by RITHMS, and we are happy to see that there are solutions, and also we hope you will keep us up to date with the development of the exploitations you will manage to put in place. I will wish you good luck with these today's developments. And in terms of implementing the project, yes, it was challenging, but also I was thrilled to be project officer for this project. I learned a lot of things because it's not my field, the art and archaeological domain, but I was happy to learn the challenges of this field and also to see that the tools of RITHMS are so appreciated already by law enforcement agencies, and there is interest from many parties outside the consortium, as I learned yesterday during the meeting you had. So congratulations for all you have done so far, and I wish you good luck with the activities of today.
Thank you very much, Alina, for your words. Yes, as Alina just mentioned, today marks the conclusion of a truly ambitious and inspiring 3 years project. And the RITHMS project set out here in Venice in October 2022 with a very bold and urgent mission that we have heard Alina describing, the one of developing innovative tools and strategies to combat the illicit trafficking of cultural goods, a challenge that affects not only Europe, but the global community. So we began 3 years ago with a shared vision, that of bringing together interdisciplinary expertise from all over Europe and beyond. And we are here today, 3 years after, having transformed that vision into tangible outcomes. So research, technologies, prototypes, and also collaborations that will have, I believe, a lasting impact well beyond the end of this project. As a coordinator of this initiative, I am proud of what we have achieved, and I'm even more grateful to those who made this possible. So let me begin by expressing my sincere thanks to all the consortium partners who work hard to achieve these goals: researchers, practitioners, technologists, law enforcement agencies, of course, and cultural heritage experts. I thank them for their dedication, their insights, and the commitment through these 3 years. I have to thank also the European Commission, and especially Alina, for its trust and support in funding and then guiding us through this crucial task. A very warm thank you also to our ethical board and to our advisory board, because your thoughtful advice, your vigilance, and your expert recommendations have helped to ensure that our work met the highest standards of responsibility, of safety, and relevance. A thank you to the coordination team, the people that helped me through going through this journey, the project manager within the project, all the administrative staff, and the communication leads. Your behind-the-scene work has been the engine of this entire journey. Thank you. And finally, thank you to the audience. Whether you have been following the project from afar or you are discovering it for the first time today, your interest and engagement mean a lot to us. We are delighted to have you with us in this beautiful room, in this beautiful space, and we hope this conference provides you with valuable insights into our work and the future of cultural heritage protection. This final conference is not only a celebration of our results, it is also an invitation to dialogue, to critical reflection, and to envisioning the future. Today, what we will do will be presenting the key findings of this project, demonstrating how our technological solutions can really support the trafficking of cultural heritage. And we will try also to engage in meaningful discussion about the policy uptake and the evolving threats to cultural heritage. And we hope that this event will serve not as an end, but as a beginning, a springboard for new partnership, for new research, and continued vigilance in the protection of our shared cultural heritage. So I just want to quickly browse the program of today with you. After my brief introduction, we will have a presentation from the IIT team that will show what has been the journey we have undertaken, giving some highlights of the key moments of the research development. Following that, we will have the first roundtable dedicated to European institutions and the fight against illicit trafficking of cultural goods. Before the roundtable, there will be, again, insights about what RITHMS has been able to achieve within that specific topic. We will have a coffee break around 11, and 11:30 we will start again with the second round table, which will be focused on ethical and legal framework for evidence validation in court. Again, at the beginning of the round table, there will be the insights of what RITHMS has been able to achieve in that regard. At 12:30, we will have a lighter moment. We will have the screening of one of the short movies that we have produced within the project as part of the communication aspect that has been curated by the Art Crime Project partner. And we will have a brief introduction from the movie director Alessandro Garilli, who is here with us today. We will then have a light lunch, and we will start again at 2 p.m. with the second documentary short movie that will be presented. Again, it has been, it is the work of Alessandro Garilli, and also in this case, we will have a brief introduction. At 2:15, we will have the third round table on digital technologies for investigating illicit trafficking, procurement, and training needs of law enforcement agencies. And at the beginning, there will be, also in this case, a brief explanation of what the RITHMS has been doing within it. Closing remarks starting from 3:15 p.m. And then there will be the screening starting from 3:30, the screening of the long documentary that has been produced. In this case, the movie director was Brian Parodi. It's about 45 minutes presentation. It's a documentary that shows what work has been done within RITHMS in the broader, describing the broader problem of the trafficking of cultural heritage. Finally, around 3:45, we will have a tour visit of the museum of the Scuola Grande di San Marco. There will be the director of this complex, bringing us around and showing us the museum. And finally, once the visit is finished, we will have a closing reception. So before we begin, just a very practical note. The coffee break will take place here in the corridor outside the Sala, in the Manica Lunga, the same place where you had the coffee break yesterday. Instead, lunch and our final cocktail reception will be held in the cloister on the ground floor, the same cloister where we took the pictures yesterday evening. Once again, I would like to thank you for being here, and let us now open the final conference of the RITHMS project with the highlights of the RITHMS voyage presented by Riccardo, which is one of the team members of IIT. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. As Arianna just said, I am going to show the voyage that RITHMS project made in these 3 long years. And I will try to make the point on some of the results that this project brought out in these years. Briefly, this was our starting point, the issue of art crime, and specifically looting illicit trafficking is an issue that has been studied before RITHMS project. We are already involved, both as a coordinator or other partners, in this kind of research, and it's an issue that is existing all around the world, and Europe in these years started really to take care of this problem. As you can see, we can see that in the last years, from 2019 to 2021, this is just some of the statistics that have been made before our project, from Interpol and Carabinieri reports, for example, we had peaks of illicit excavations that are very, very, it's a huge problem. We needed to find and understand this problem more deeply and find solution. This was the peak that has been studied in 2020, and it was probably also related to the pandemic situation. What is really illicit excavation? It's something that for archaeologists it's a very common, let's say, truth. We all know as archaeologists what is illicit excavation, but not all of the archaeologists let's say, are very fond. I mean, they are not really knowing the issue. There is specific kind of problems. There is the fact that the illicit excavation is something that is really against the law in many countries, and it's something that has a very high and big consequences. There is the destruction of archaeological sites, damage that is irreversible, and finally a huge loss of cultural heritage. And also, illicit excavation is done not just with simple methods, but also with destructive methods that definitely destroy our common past. So we, as a RITHMS project, try to give an answer to this problem and to find solutions with specific paths. First of all, with the understanding of the problem of illicit trafficking by both legal and technological and heritage-focused research. Building technology for law enforcement agency that take care of this problem, that try to stop it somehow or understand it and move more swiftly and quickly against potential crimes, to foster the cooperation both at a European level, but also between different kind of professionals. So as our consortium demonstrates, we are a consortium made of university researchers, institutions, non-governmental organizations, and different law enforcement agencies from all over Europe. And also beyond our consortium, we build a strong cooperation networks also with Europol and other research institutes. And finally, our objective was and is still and will be enhance the capacity, the potentiality of law enforcement agency response toward the protection of the common cultural heritage. Our history is, as you can see from this timeline, and it's just an extract of our 3 years, was made also from different events, different milestones that I will really quickly show you. We started with the kickoff meeting and the first international conference in the October 3 years ago here in Venice. But also we had a lot of internal workshops. The first one was held in Munich, the second one in Sofia. So we had really a history of meetings and conferences that built this strong network of stakeholders, but also that let us build this platform, finally this technology, in a very proper way. just a few other events that we participated, organized. This was the CultureNet meeting in Madrid. We also organized a few exhibitions. This is one that was organized here with the participation of the Carabinieri. It was really a fulfilling experience for us, but also for the public, that let us show what is this issue and how the law enforcement agency worked and what they recovered during the year, specifically here in the territory of Veneto and Venice. But this is an example for all the efforts of law enforcement agency. This was another huge conference we held in A Coruña, organized by our partner, the university, and other, really a lot of events. I tried to synthesize here. We, in Italy, we won the Legambiente Prize for the protection of cultural heritage, and we started also to join the network of other sister projects with which we also co-organized and participated to joint webinars and events. This was another conference that we held in Brussels, and we brought together the world of restorators and conservators that as also we all know are a focal point in the pipeline of the issue of cultural heritage trafficking. And finally, there was the premiere earlier this year of the long film that was introduced before from Mariana, that you will be able to see later on, as well as other final training beyond the consortium, for example, that we had in Munich this year. That we tried to export already our technology toward a larger public of user. And finally, we are here today for this event. Our specific results are in a very different, let's say, fields. We have the results of that is the main point of the digital platform. That is, we have more than 60 tools that collect data from websites, more than 1 million of people, organization, and location, events, and objects inside this database related to art, heritage, market, and trafficking. We we have in this platform advanced techniques to show networks of interest and red flags, and this is just let's say a snapshot of the potentiality of the platform that is capable to extract significant statistical analysis on this network, also pinpoint central actors in the art trade and art trafficking world, and that is really customizable, and that will be, we are sure of this, a very powerful tool once put in operation with also law enforcement data, internal data in their premises. But beyond the platform, we worked toward manuals for training law enforcement agencies, both in the issue of cultural heritage crime, that is very specific, but also in data information knowledge and security, data collection, how to collect data and how to clean them, and also what really is social network analysis in order to use these tools and platforms in a powerful way. Moving on, we developed methodology protocols that are not already published, but they will be in the near future for increase the effort and also reduce the risk, the rewards, the provocation, and the excuses for both, let's say, local looting, but also organized and transnational criminal networks. We produced the docu-film. That this is just a snapshot. I won't make it long here because we will have plenty of time later. And the two other short films from Art Crime Project Association, very focused on specific case studies that you will see later on. And again, we also achieved more than 10 publications already in specific scientific journal, both in, let's say, criminology and legal field, but also, as you can see, the overlaps of cultural property crime with organized crime in the EU policy documentation from our partner from La Coruña. Also, we studied the legal risks of AI tool. That is an issue that is very, very interesting in, and engaging. And also a lot of papers on specific case studies that we derived from the data we collected, the new AI approach in natural language processing we used in the platform, and also a long series of posters and publication and presence in conferences all over the Europe. As I said before, one of our achievement is really this stronger and stronger network with law enforcement agency. In Europe, we have, of course, to thank also Europol for this achievement that involved us from the day one, let's say, of the project, and we are really in a good conversation, and we have been able to promote, let's say, to make RITHMS known very, very fastly outside our consortium, but also with the network of sister projects that are working with similar technologies or with a similar approach in different types of offenses and crime, just like environmental crime and firearm trafficking. And finally, I just a few words on the future for RITHMS project. Our next goal now is the validation within Europol, and to move toward an even larger network of law enforcement users. But we really will be make RITHMS not die with this month, but we will bring it on really in the future for all the Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Riccardo, for this overview of the many outputs that this 3 years project has been able to achieve. And let us now begin our journey into the RITHMS project, on its vision, the main other achievements beside the ones that have been explained here, and also to speak about the path we have taken. So I would like to start the first round table, the one on European institution and the fight against illicit trafficking of cultural goods. Before that, Michela De Bernardin from the IIT team will provide us with some highlights on the policy recommendation work that has been developed within RITHMS, and that will set the stage for the discussion we will have with our guest of Roundtable 1, which I will introduce as soon as Michela has terminated this brief presentation. So I leave the stage to Michela, and then I will introduce the participants to this first roundtable.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Arianna. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for the conference. So I will just give you a really fast overview of a few highlights on policy recommendations that we have been developing for RITHMS project, and that will be submitted to the European Commission in the next few weeks. The main work with respect to this deliverable has been done by our partners, the European Institute Foundation. So, of course, we thank them for their work, and we have been discussing that, of course, in these last few months. And this would be like a start, and we will be happy to have also your feedback on a few recommendations that might be conceived as more effective and helpful to bring forth. And that would be also something that the roundtable will bring as a result, hopefully. So the main purpose of the policy recommendations within RITHMS would be to strengthen the protection of cultural heritage by addressing the gaps between EU legal norms and their practical implementation, foster deeper coordination and cooperation across member states, and ensure that cultural heritage is preserved and protected against illicit trade. As first recommendation, as a highlight, it would be to improve data quality and database integration within the realm of cultural heritage data. Current data on cultural heritage crimes is fragmented. Many countries lack specific crime codes for cultural goods trafficking, and stolen objects often constitute only a minority of traded items. So there is really an issue in dealing with this kind of crimes. And weak EU-level exchange further hampers the cooperation to solve cross-border crimes in this field. Second recommendation, to establish common procedures for ascertaining the rule of origin of cultural goods. So to work for common procedures for determining the origin of the objects, because of course national differences in ownership rules are really apparent and create loopholes that criminals then exploit to legitimize stolen artifacts. So really the differences between the state vs private ownership in archaeological findings within Europe is really an issue. And harmonizing ownership laws across member states would really help preventing exploitation of these discrepancies by the criminals. Third recommendation would be to push for continuous training to staff members of dedicated law enforcement teams. So really to build and create for those countries who still do not have specific task forces or teams working on cultural heritage. It will be important to create such teams and then ensure that the training is kept and is updated and coordinating also among within Europe. So, because expertise is uneven across member states, effective investigations often require knowledge of art, archaeology, and provenance research, and also the reliance on external experts is common in some countries, but weak in others. So there is really a huge gap within Europe on how the law enforcement teams are managing this crime. That will push to providing specialized training to law enforcement staff dealing with cultural heritage crimes as an essential point. As a best practice, also we could recommend to make more accessible and really as a shorter pace the archaeologists and art historians to have teams that work together with the law enforcement agencies in a regular way, so that there is an exchange of information, a prompt exchange of information when it's needed. This would be the recommendation 5. I've skipped the 4th because it's not so relevant at the moment. So to develop a common definition of acceptable provenance. Without uniform standards, illicitly acquired goods can be legalized through claims of purchase in good faith, and stricter rules would guide art dealers more effectively, although not eliminate disputes or entirely. So developing an EU-wide definition of acceptable, or what is acceptable as a provenance, what is a good provenance, would not eliminate these disputes altogether, but it would provide clearer guidance to art dealers on what due diligence they must perform. It would reduce opportunities for traffickers to exploit differences between national markets, and would enhance consistency and fairness in restitution proceedings. So really to work on the concepts and make them agreed upon Europe-wise, it would be really important. These are like a few highlights on the recommendations point, and we know that even with this recommendation, there are very important limitations. So there is a lack of political priority. No EU legislation can automatically make cultural trafficking a top political priority. We know that, and only few member states consistently prioritize the issue. There is, as said, an uneven situation in best practices, and successful enforcement depends heavily on national context and political will in that country. There is a limited impact of market regulation. Calls for stricter regulation and transparency in the art and antiquities market are long-standing, but effectiveness is still questionable. And as a last point, ethical standards exist but are inconsistently applied. So these are the limitations that we face, and we hope that a project such as RITHMS, which highlights a lot of issues but try to support also the work on of the law enforcement agencies within Europe, can really boost and promote a discussion and hopefully the priority of reaching a common point within Europe on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michaela, for this brief introduction of the results of the project. So I would like now to start the first roundtable, calling on stage Alfio Gullotta and Monica Redondo, while the other panelists are going to be connected online. So you can. Uno dei due, sì. Monica qui. Ormai il microfono questo, il microfono basta premere il tastino. Ok. So in this roundtable, we will explore how European institutions are addressing this fight and what is needed to strengthen the action. So I'm pleased to introduce now our panelists. I'll start for the two ones that couldn't make it here in Venice, but are connected online, and I thank them for making themselves at least available online. So the first one is Sebastian Serbiak, and he's currently Policy Officer at the European Commission's DG Migration and Home Affairs. He specializes in fighting crime, terrorism, and critical infrastructure resilience. With nearly 20 years in police service, he has extensive experience in EU security research and has been previously served as Director of Public Security and Deputy Director of Poland's NCP. The other expert that is connected online is Oscar Alarcon, and is Executive Secretary at the Council of Europe, where he oversees the Nicosia Medi crime and works on trafficking conventions. He's a specialist in criminal law and cultural heritage protection, and he advances legal frameworks against illicit trafficking and organized crime. The other two guests that we have here with us are Monica Redondo Alvarez, and she is an expert in restoration and conservation, and since 2005, she has served as Spain's Ministry of Culture as head of restoration and senior advisor to European affairs, leading major interventions on cultural assets. Since 2021, she's program manager at program manager at the Council of Europe for the Nicosia Convention. And finally, Alfio Gullotta, with background in law and security study. He's a Carabinieri officer with leadership and international experience in Iraq, Afghanistan, and in the UK. He led the Carabinieri Cultural Heritage Protection Training Unit from 2016 to 2021, coordinated the EU training and contributed to projects like ISF of Dakar. Since 2022, he serves as in the EU External Action Service. So thank you so much for being here. It is a pleasure to have you with us, and it's a pleasure to have the other two panelists online. I'll start with a general question, a question that for which I would like to have an answer from each of you. And the question is, from your institutional or professional perspective, what do you see as the most urgent gaps in the current European response to illicit traffic of cultural goods? I would like to ask, first of all, to our panelists that are connected online to provide their answer. So, Sebastian, can you tell us something about this? Thank you.
Very good morning, and thank you for inviting me here, and apologies for not being there in person, which I certainly prefer. So just to be brief, if I was to name one of the main obstacle, I would say that it's very similar for all the areas of counterfeiting, whether it's organized crime or whether it's terrorism. So it's streamlining of the exchange of intelligence across all agencies and also across border, but also in-house within one legal system in one country. There are also obstacles sometimes to exchange the full sets of the intelligence data. There are numerous reasons for that. Most of that, this is the secrecy. But this is the main obstacle that we should overcome. There is a number of initiatives on the political level. There are also on the policy level, but also the operational best practices try to overcome that shortcoming. So if I was to name one of them, I would say this is the major one. We have a huge range of tools, of solutions, but the separation of data very often renders our situational picture incomplete or sometimes misleading. And I believe many of the investigations could come quickly to a result, to a successful result, and then many more cases could be revealed if we could merge all these data that are floating around in different systems. So that would be my major diagnosis for the shortcoming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. Oscar, can you also provide an answer to our question? Oscar, I'm afraid you're muted. Just 1 second while we try to solve the issue.
Sorry, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Perfect, sorry. First of all, good morning. And as well as my colleague Sebastian, I would like to apologize for not being there with you in Venice, unfortunately. In addition to what my colleague Sebastian has said, I would like to mention that there are, from my point of view, 3 major elements that could be raised following the question that you just mentioned. First of all, I would say that there is a lack of harmonized legislation. I mean, if every single country has its own legislation, this is a real gap in the current, different countries to cope in particular with this tackle, which is with illicit trafficking of cultural goods. So we should have harmonized legislation so that legal professionals could properly act and do their work, not only legal professionals, but also law enforcement. The second element that I would like to raise is in particular the lack of knowledge. I mean, for those people working in the topic of cultural heritage, it's very easy to understand the topic. However, for people who are far away from this world, I mean, the cultural heritage world, like law enforcement or even legal professionals, judges and prosecutors, I mean, here there is a real gap. I mean, and they need to be aware what the risks are and what the situation is. And then as a third element, I would like to raise an important element, which is the dysfunctional information sharing. This is in line with what has already been said by my colleague Sebastian. If there is no proper information sharing, nothing will happen. We need to take into consideration that this is not a problem from any concrete country, either Spain or Portugal or Italy. We are talking about international criminal networks, and these are the ones who are having profit of it. And to global problems, we need to give global solutions. And if you allow me, I think that the Nicosia Convention is the solution to have to this concrete problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oscar. I will leave the stage now to Monica to answer.
Good morning to everybody, and thanks again for the invitation. Yes, under my view, as a former Council of Europe staff and following the words that Oscar just have said, I see that the main gap when fighting against the trafficking in cultural heritage is to tackle the first step that allows the illicit trafficking, meaning looting, meaning damage, the ones that steal things in churches, etc., and to reduce the number of cases on the table. So in that sense, the Nicosia Convention is the instrument that allows to harmonize the legislation, but also to tackle with this first step that take part of the criminal chain, because even if we have not harmonized data, even if we have different databases in the police bodies and etc., the amount of cases has increased a lot. And this kind of changes in the penal codes that Nicosia Convention is asking for to the countries allows to deter, to make people think twice whether they want to commit or not this crime. So it would be easier not easier, but this gap should be filled by ratifying the Nicosia Convention and adapting the penal code, so increasing the penalties to these white crimes, to say that like this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Alfio?
Not easy to close after what was already said. If I had to name one thing, I would echo what already my other colleagues, and especially Sebastian, said. Working in silos is the problem, but not only for exchange of information between law enforcement. There is one thing about trafficking of cultural property that is different from every other illicit trafficking. If you deal with weapons, weapons stay in the black market from the beginning till the end. If you deal with drugs, it's the same. What is different for cultural property is that at a certain point, to make money, you have to shift from the illegal to the legal. And that's what happened. And you need other actors to allow this to happen. And it happens in different countries. It's a flow in the system, but it's also something that we can exploit, and that is the point. Working to find a way to work together and use the data that exists in order to understand better this process. And unfortunately, is not yet happening enough, and it's something, as Oscar said, that it can be done only worldwide, because it's a worldwide problem. And if you don't coordinate worldwide, it won't work. And that is why it's so difficult.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So now I'll go into some more targeted questions, and I will start with Sebastian. So Sebastian, what elements make a policy recommendation truly actionable for DG Home? This is very important for us because the moment in which we work during our project on to policy recommendation, it is important to know what you really need, what type of elements that truly can make our effort useful for you, for DG Home.
Yeah, I think it's also very interesting for you as the last deliverable for the RITHMS. I mean, the policy recommendations are still to be submitted, so I guess it's also a kind of a final checklist for from us from DG Home what to expect from the project. So. I have a few thoughts on that. I know that you've been also interacting, exchanging with colleagues, with Ria, with Alina, mostly as your project officer. But from the perspective of the DG Home, of the policy unit, so I would say what we always repeat at the very beginning of the project, even before you start drafting, when we meet you, as the potential consortium in the info days. So first of all, apart from the fact that you need to know all the background and what has happened already when you start drafting the proposal, you must stay actual throughout the lifetime of the project. So your recommendations must be actual. It means you follow the development, and that can be done on many levels and through many channels. So you organize events yourself when you bring on board the policy-making colleagues from different institutions, not only from DG Home, because DG Home is not the only actor here, but also other institutions, that, including the national stakeholders, that follow the development of the phenomena, and as usual, the policy follows that development. It's very hard to anticipate and really do something on the preventive measure, although we try to do that. So be actual. And I think that this is something that really worked for the RITHMS project, because through the lifetime of the project, I had many colleagues with the consortium and the interactions. Also, my colleagues who sit on the policy files, Celine, who was here, also a guest on some other occasions, they were also involved and they also contributed to keep you updated. So that way, when you deliver the policy recommendations, you should actually pinpoint what is currently being discussed. So this gives you the attention of the policy colleagues and gives you some traction, so that can be really followed up, and you can see some of your recommendations that will either find its final way into the paper, or will reinforce already, or maybe will completely change the direction of the discussion and point towards some other things that were previously omitted. So actuality, that's one of the things that I would say. Of course, then on when you look at the actual structure and drafting of this recommendation, something that is very important is also to provide the context and provide the background, how we reach that point, why these recommendations. So this is what makes this policy recommendation a ground, a food for the evidence-based policy making. So actually, you explain why we should do that, and how you came to these conclusions. That is the convincing factor in the policy recommendations. But having all that said, it still has to stay short. So it may be challenging to provide all this information, provide the background, provide the explanation, and at the same time stay concise. But this is actually the necessity, because even if the expert colleagues at the working level are convinced on certain recommendations, it actually takes to convince the hierarchy, and it's much easier if we have like short, punching arguments to provide, to present. So drafting your recommendations like that is really something that helps a lot with advancing this certain path of thinking. Then if you could provide also some visuals and graphs, it also always helps. It's much easier to show something than explain it in words. So that's the practical hints. So if I would refer to my previous life, it's like in the criminality, you should explain what you want to do, you should explain how it should be done, and why it should be done. And of course, usually we also ask about when, but here it's always the same answer. It should be introduced yesterday. So we rather say, okay, when, as soon as possible. So that would be my main observations about how to draft the policy recommendations. Stay clear, stay concise, and stay actual, and explain why it should be done. So then we can really advance that agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer, Sebastian, and thank you also for giving such precise instructions that we are taking note clearly. So now another question, a little bit maybe challenging. So how do you balance cultural heritage protection with broader EU security priorities such as organized crime and terrorism?
Is it also for me, the question?
Yes, it's a question.
Okay.
So do you want me to repeat it?
No. I understand. However, yeah,
we might understand that having DG Home has a lot to do with organized crime and terrorism. Maybe sometimes cultural heritage doesn't seem to be a priority. So how do you try to balance the protection of our cultural heritage with other broader or more pressing, I would say, security priorities in the European space?
I wouldn't say balance is a good word here. I would certainly not use it, because we all look at that as the interconnected, vessels. So you cannot really focus on one aspect, like fighting organized crime or counter-fighting terrorism, and treat the protection of the cultural heritage separately in a different drawer. This is not really like done. I would say it's a bigger portfolio when all these elements are kind of building blocks of the strategy. So when you look at what is being done at the policy level on the former organized crime strategy and the current the Protect EU, so you can see that these are certain building blocks and certain elements that respond to that phenomena in general. When you look at it when it's organized crime, so you don't really look at them as someone who is dealing particularly in one or the other thing. These are kind of enterprises that make money wherever it's possible. So you have really to address them in a complex way. So that's why the response is also so complex. And of course, they have certain niches and specialities, but they also shift rapidly. What we also observe today is this crime as a service, which is a growing tendency, and these groups can shift from one kind of business to the other wherever they can take that market niche. So they rapidly move. So having said that, when you look at this new Protect EU strategy, which was released just April this year, so there are certain elements that are responding to a different elements, and I will try to say how it's connected with this particular area that we are discussing today. So we have the focus on the intelligence sharing. That's something that I already said in my introductory notes. But you have also the mentioning of the new tools. So these new tools, they are also the technological and organizational solutions that are being delivered by projects like RITHMS, but not RITHMS only. It's a bigger portfolio of projects that was mentioned also at the very beginning, that there is a number of projects that is dealing with different aspects of that phenomena. So we have the also for Horizon Europe Cluster 3, which is our cluster where RITHMS is financed. We have also the projects focusing on the border control, so screening all the flow of goods, including, among others, also the cultural heritage objects. And so all these detectors, they are built that way, and these AI tools now that support the identification, they can both distinguish and alert the operator on the drugs, on the firearms, but also on the cultural heritage objects in that. So it's a complex response to that problem. We have the projects that are dealing with the root causes of this, like in Cluster 2, looking at the third countries, looking at the situation over there. We have also, when we look at the fighting organized crime, we have this policy of following the money, which is very important for all kinds of organized crime when you're counterfighting them, including counterfighting the cultural heritage, trafficking, smuggling, and all these kinds of activities. So whenever there is profit, at some point there are money, and we should be able to follow that money, including if these are cryptocurrencies. So again, there are different projects that are looking specifically at following the cryptocurrencies wherever they are used for the drug dealing, or wherever they are used for setting the balance of these transactions, including the cultural heritage. On the fighting against terrorism, again, we perfectly know that these organizations use the illegal excavations all over the world to sell these pieces and finance their political agenda, their armament, and all they can finance through that strain. So again, it's a part of a bigger complex. Then, when you look at the very strategy, we also pay attention to building the capabilities of the third countries. So it's not only these investments that I mentioned that they are happening in Europe. There are also actions that are being performed by the European External Action Service, by DG EAC, and by INTPA that are building the capabilities in third countries, so we can address these problems, this issue, also elsewhere, and also build the cross-border cooperation on counterfighting them. So I would say we are not balancing, we are treating the problem in a complex way, addressing different issues and different, instances of that phenomena in different environmental setups. That I would say it's my point of view. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for this, Sebastian. And now I would move to Oscar with some some targeted question for Oscar. So, how can the Council of Europe leverage the RITHMS proposed recommendations to promote the Nicosia Convention and foster greater cooperation with EU institutions?
Yes, thank you for this question. In fact, the recommendations that Michela just mentioned before, these 5 recommendations are very accurate and also very concrete. And in fact, I would like to thank RITHMS for this project and for coming up with these recommendations. It's really a challenging question. But I will try to give you some hints, some elements. Well, I think that maybe it could be interesting to intensify the promotion and awareness raising of the Nicosia Convention. How can it be done? Well, I think that maybe a good element could be just promote targeted advocacy campaigns. I would also like to say that this is not an issue for cooperation with European institutions. It is important that this cooperation is among countries. We should not forget this. For European institutions, it is important to intensify, as I mentioned, the promotion of the Nicosia Convention, maybe through activities. For example, the European Commission, either DG Home or DG just to focus on the Convention's value as a comprehensive legal instrument that complements European Union internal security objectives. So I think that it should be, or we should emphasize, if I may say, how the Convention fills the gaps and provides a framework for cooperation not only among European Union member states, but also with non-European Union member states. Because, as I mentioned before, we are talking about criminal networks. And for these criminal networks, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about European Union or not European Union. Another institution that can be tackled, for example, it could be the European Parliament. Within the European Parliament, there are different groups, for example, those dealing with culture, and maybe we should, RITHMS or whomever should engage with them, with these relevant committees, through briefings and hearings, just to explain them what the Nicosia Convention brings. As mentioned before by my colleague Monica, the idea of the Nicosia Convention is to criminalize certain activities and to make understand that there are certain activities that should be considered as a crime. And for people to understand, they need to be shown how this situation works. Like, for example, an easy thing, graffitis. I'm just wondering in how many legislations from all those participants here in this conference, graffiting a cultural good is considered as a crime. Well, this is an element to be considered. So as you see, there is a change of mentality to consider that cultural heritage should be protected. And there are certain activities that should be considered as a crime, you know? Another element that I think that could be considered, of course, is include the Nicosia Convention as a permanent agenda in some items, in some high-level dialogues in European Union as well within the Council of Europe. Within the Council of Europe, we are considering, well, we're already introducing the Nicosia Convention in all different speeches that the Secretary General is doing in the different bilateral meetings. So the same should be with the European Union. And of course, the recommendations included in this, at the end of this project, these policy recommendations that Michaela already mentioned, should be considered. And there are very good ones, like, for example, the data collection, the training, the acceptable provenance. I must say that this is a very good element. And the way that from the Council of Europe we can leverage these recommendations is to take these recommendations on board and in our future committee of the parties to tackle them, or even now in the Aragon group within the Council of Europe, we can also go further with this recommendation and discuss them. And the third and last element, sorry to be so long, it could be, develop joint capacity building initiatives, facilitate information exchange, and also support not only European Union member states, but also non-European Union member states in promoting the Nicosia Convention. We in the Council of Europe, we have 46 member states, and it's quite important to see how other non-European Union member states are more eager to join the Nicosia Convention than European Union member states. These are, I would say, a very important elements that could help in leveraging these recommendations.
Thank you very much. Very clear message. Thank you, Oscar. Another question is about actually the obstacles, and you mentioned something already, but what are the main obstacles to translating the Nicosia Convention into concrete policy tools for member states? Because this is, and Monica also before mentioned it in an answer before, this is a very important point, clearly. If there are obstacles in translating the Nicosian Convention, if the member states are not reacting at the same way, we have a problem here. So what's your vision or what you see for the future happening? How can, what do you see as the main obstacles for this?
Yes, I would then, that's also a very good question, and it goes in line with what I mentioned before and also raised by Monica. First of all, I mean, there is a political, the major reason, one of the major reasons is political. I mean, if there is no political will, if a country does not even sign the convention, that means that cultural crime is a low priority crime for the country. So there should be a sensitivity, if I may say so, about this problem. If there is no any concrete will for the country, I'm just talking about my country, I would not like to criticize other, but for example, my country, there is a very good network, there are very good professionals working on this, in particular Policía Nacional, as well as Guardia Civil, as well as, a lot of people working in the field. They are very sensible with this problem. But if there is no will from the current government, and I can say louder but not more clear, nothing will happen, Either Monica and me, we can be during ages talking about the Nicosia Convention. Nothing will change in any single country if there is not a political will to go forward and to join the Nicosia Convention. Second element, legal. As a prosecutor, I can tell you that this is a complex item, and harmonization of legislation is essential. I cannot work with another prosecutor from another country, or a judge cannot work with another judge from another country to do restitution or whatever if they don't have the same legislation. For legal professionals, it's evident and necessary that the same crime should be considered in different countries. Otherwise, we cannot work together. So this is the second element. Another obstacle that I would say is operational. I mean, there is a lack of a specialized expertise, institutional fragmentation. There are challenges in monitoring in a lot of fields. So, I mean, if there is no legal professionals or even law enforcement who are trained for this, nothing will happen, you know, because otherwise we can see items going from Spain to Italy to Russia to Lima or wherever, nothing will happen. Of course, and I'm going now to an important element, there is a lack of funding for training, for databases, for competitions, and for other crime areas. This is a reality. But I mean, if we don't begin slowly, but with security, training legal professionals, law enforcement, as well as those people dealing with culture, nothing will happen. And of course, awareness. The public should be aware that when they go with a detector in whatever, I mean, either at the beach or in an archaeological site, and they found, let's say, a coin from the Arab times or the Roman times, I mean, and they found it, they cannot consider that, oh, I found it, I bring it home. No. This is a crime. We need to begin changing this. And we need to begin changing this not only with adult people, either legal professionals, either law enforcement, or even with public, also with children. And this is what we need to change the paradigm, you know? So public at whatever level, as well as professionals, should be, I mean, aware that, I mean, we need to protect cultural heritage, you know, and prevention, cultural prevention is an important element. These are mainly the major obstacles that I would say that we need to take into consideration.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Oscar. So I will go now to Monica and ask her, given your former role within the Council of Europe, how does RITHMS contribute to the implementation of the Nicosia Convention?
Thanks, Ariana. Well, I think that Oscar has given a very good overview of the Council of Europe's ideas, but under my view, the first thing is that the RITHMS is an artificial intelligence project devoted to cultural heritage. And this is a very good news because artificial intelligence is very high on the agenda. And so with this project, we can say, hello, this is also important. This is also impacting or has to do with the cultural heritage. Okay, excuse me. Yes, the sound is not very good. So just for being here, RITHMS is an example of how technologies and experts in artificial intelligence are also experts in cultural heritage, and only for this, RITHMS is contributing to the sector, I think. The second contribution to the Nicosia Convention, and Oscar has already said it, is you have in your recommendations highlight some problems or subjects that should be tackled, like the origin and the provenance, which is very important. And as Oscar has said, the Council of Europe or the Convention can use your expertise and this information to study and to put these arguments on the table and to discuss it with the member states in our committees or in our informal groups, because the Nicosia Convention has created an informal group called Aragon Group, with even if we don't have the committee, with the countries that are interested in this subject of crimes against cultural heritage. The third thing for me is that you are providing information, very valuable information and expertise that we can use to have data, to sustain our efforts to make understand that this is important, and also we can use it to provide the organization as loudspeaker could use this data to draft fact sheets or publications or booklets, etc., to make understand the situation, but with numbers and with information. And you are also making us understand the process that Alfio has said, how this black market then little by little is becoming a white market. And as we have this information to understand the process, we can better disseminate what is happening to the citizenship, because one of our last efforts in the Council of Europe has been open this prevention side of the Nicosia Convention by drafting a handbook on education, on cultural heritage, but on education on the ugly side of cultural heritage, which is the crimes that are committed against the cultural heritage. And we have also drafted a storytelling for children to be used in the school to explain to them, to this future citizenship, but future adults, what is happening in order to make their tolerance to these acts be lower. So with your information, we can better raise awareness and we can better see where to focus our efforts.
Thank you, Monica, for this. So another question actually for you. Which of the RITHMS policy recommendation could be the most relevant for Spain's international cooperation strategy? So going into Spain and your vision of the situation in your country. So can you tell us which of the policy recommendation could be most relevant specifically for it?
Well, sorry. Now my current position is in the Spanish Ministry for Foreign Affairs, and I am working in the Spanish Agency for International Cooperation. So we have a very good network with all the countries in the world, with our embassies, and we are with our different institutes and cultural centers, especially with Latin America. So I wouldn't choose one of them, but what I see is that there is another key element in the field, which is foreign affairs in this case, for example, that can that have these training programs for cooperation and for development, etc., where we can insert also this subject, the illicit trafficking, the crimes against cultural heritage, the artificial intelligence, and to highlight the problems that you have already highlighted, and also to move everything towards a more political, to make it a political priority also in these other countries.
Thank you very much. And now we go to Alfio. So Alfio, I wanted to ask you from your perspective and your position at the EU, how can EU-funded research projects like RITHMS strengthen the international framework of action against trafficking of cultural heritage?
Well, one thing, I've been in this journey with RITHMS since the beginning, in another capacity, and then I stayed within the journey because I believe in this. What I will say, it's from my experience. I cannot express any opinion for the European Union or the EAS whatsoever. But I can speak from what I've learned during this 10 years in this and this 3 years journey with RITHMS. And sometimes the journey is as important as the destination. Because during those 3 years, you have made contacts with partners, you changed partners, you knew other projects similar, maybe doing very different things, you created synergies, you were researched for the job you're doing from possible interested institutions and people outside of the European Union. And this is a real added value. Because yes, the project creates something, but the project links also people and institutions and perhaps produce future ameliorment and better understanding both of the problems and of the possible solution that might already be within Europe being developed by someone, but nobody knows, because if we don't talk to each other, then we don't have the possibility to know. And this is especially true in this. And again, I come back to the fact that I'm sorry, I'm a carabiniere, so we are very simple people. And be the bridge. This kind of project can be the bridge between academia and law enforcement. Law enforcement have a very specific focus. Few resources, even fewer time. Not that on the academia it's different, but it's sometimes difficult to see things in the way you're seen in the scientific world. Be that bridge in order to let them understand better what they can do and how they can exploit the possibilities that come with science, knowledge, and the net of academic knowledge that is already present but difficult to access for someone that is on the ground.
Thank you very much. And another question for you, it's about the role that RITHMS can play. So I want to ask you is what role actually our project can play to tackle the phenomenon beyond Europe, because we know this is a global problem, it's certainly not a European problem, and in all the work we have done so far, we have not considered Europe our border. And I ask you also, in addition to that, if it is necessary. Of course, I already know the question, the answer to the question, but I would like to hear your view on that.
It is necessary. And because it was discussed before already, this is a global problem, and there are international loopholes, et cetera, and this is what need to be tackled. And I truly hope that RITHM can be the system to create this link. Because international cooperation between law enforcement, it's already difficult. And Sebastian said it at the beginning, and I think it's very important. Policy must be based on reality. We need to find this reality behind heritage trafficking from outside Europe that ends into Europe. We know that there is, because there is the market for this item. We need to understand how. And I truly hope that among the deliverables of RITHMS, there will be one tool that can help in understanding better this thread. And that would really make the difference in cooperating with law enforcement outside Europe. Because if you have the evidence to present, it will be easier to obtain cooperation. In Europe, it's easier because we created this framework. To cooperate outside Europe, you have to do it through Interpol, which is a friend of European Union law enforcement. But we need evidence. And that evidence is not yet entirely there. And we need the tools to find it.
And thank you very much to Alfio, but thank you also to all our panelists for their insightful contribution, especially we have been inviting people that know the project and have been together with us in this journey, so we are very thankful also for being part of the project with your continuous support. So we now take a short coffee break in the corridor, the Manica Lunga, the corridor just outside this room, and I ask to all the participants here to be back by 11:30 for our second roundtable. Again, I would like to thank a lot Sebastian and Oscar that were connected online with us. We will be happy if you will be able to continue to stay with us later, but of course we understand that you are very busy. And again, for all the others, we will be back here at 11:30 sharp, because we don't want to make our guests online wait for us. Thank you, and see you in half an hour.
Thank you so much.
Here we are again, and thank you for coming back to our second roundtable, the roundtable on ethical and legal framework for evidence validation in court. So our second discussion focuses on the ethics and law, and the questions that we are going to answer are: how can AI-based and digital tools be used to produce evidence, and what are the constraints when it comes to validating this evidence in the court? This is a very important question about AI, not only for our project, but for the broader, for many other types of crime as well. So I'm pleased to welcome here on this stage our chair, Julio Ferreiro Bahamonde from the University of La Coruña, together with our panelists, Fernando Miro Linares and Giorgi Nieva Fenoli. Thank you for joining us today, and I will leave the stage now to Julio.
Thank you very much, Ariana. So it's a pleasure to chair this second roundtable of today. And well, the program for this roundtable is, I'm going to try to explain a little bit, is the following one. I'm going to introduce the topic, just showing you the results of the project, considering this topic, especially this deliverable 2.6 that I've been in charge of. So 10 minutes just to show you the main remarks of the deliverable. That is, of course, dealing with this, I think, very interesting topic. At least it has been, for me, a very interesting topic. And afterwards, I'll give the floor to Fernando Miro. Fernando Miro is on my right. He's a full professor of law at the University Miguel Hernández in Elche, in Spain. He is also the leader of Crimina, that is a research institution on criminology. He is also co-founder of Plus Ethics, that is a company who is specialized in ethics and ethics in technology especially. He is also chairman of the Spanish Society of Criminology, and mainly he is a great expert in everything that has to do with cybercrime and the use of AI in criminal justice and criminology in general. So thank you, Fernando, for being with us today. Fernando is going to talk, well, we'll see it later, about something that has been addressed in the previous roundtable that has to do with cooperation, sharing data, all this kind of stuff. So thank you, Fernando. And on my left, I have Jordi Nieva, who is also professor in Spain, in this case at the University of Barcelona. He is professor of procedural law. He also has been teaching, I would say, all around the world. He has been teaching in Germany, from several universities, and all around Latin America in different countries. He is he's an expert on AI also, and I mean, he has a great merit, at least for me, that he started to deal with AI before all the hype. So, I mean, he's, the same as Fernando, I have to say. So, yeah, they are like precursors of this topic. I mean, the relationship between AI and law, especially criminal justice. So, yeah, I think we have a great panel if we don't consider myself. So, I think it's going to be a good roundtable. And we are going to change a little bit the structure that Michela told us to do. I'm sorry, Michela, because of that, because, yeah, I think Fernando has a very interesting presentation, so maybe we don't do this kind of question-answer structure, but more traditional one. I'm sorry about that, but I think it's going to be better. So, okay, so it's on me to start the presentation. I'm going to change because, I mean, my sight is not so good as it should be. So I'm going to be closer to the screen. Okay, so what about this deliverable? That, I mean, it was a little problematic to finish it, but I mean, finally we did it, and I think finally the job is being, I mean, I would say acceptable for everybody. So yeah, all we know about the main goals of the project. So in this work package, where the deliverable is included, we wanted to analyze the requirements for validating a tool or the results of a tool as the RITHMS platform to be used in court. I know that for most of you, RITHMS platform is intelligence, police tool. But, I mean, we also have to consider the next step. I mean, once we have made the investigation or we can get some clues for the investigation, then maybe, or I would say, I'm sure we need to use this information at some point in court. Not only going to trial, because maybe going to trial we don't need the information. I think we are going to need the information given by the platform. But, I don't know, maybe we can just get the leads or the clues from the platform and then, I mean, build the case with some different evidence. But in an environment of international crime, international cooperation, I mean, it is very common that we are going to need to go to the court to ask for a warrant, to ask for some cooperation tool, and we are going to need to show a judge or a court or, I don't know, or a public prosecutor, that the information given by the tool is worthy, and that we can take decisions in court, legal decisions based on the information given by the platform. And, okay, maybe if we are used to work with the platform, we can rely on the information given by the platform. But the thing is that we are going to need to offer this information to a court with some specifics and maybe with some guarantees that the information used fulfills some legal and ethical requirements. Which one are the main challenges to use the information given by an SNA platform, so our platform, in court? So the first one has to do with algorithmic opacity and due process. I mean, if we are using AI or an algorithm to make a plane fly, we don't mind, I mean, how the algorithm works. I mean, we mind that the plane really flies, right? Really flies. But this is not like that in court. In court, we need to explain the reason of the decisions. We need to make the evidence transparent for the judge and for the parties. because of, mainly two things. I don't want to bore you with this, but there are two main reasons to make things transparent or at least explainable in court. The first one has to do with the due process requirements. Parties need to know why they are being convicted, they are being arrested, they are being, I don't know, taking decisions about them, and it is not enough to say because the platform says so. This is not enough. The parties need to confront the information given by the platform, so they need to understand how the platform works, and they need to know at least the main reasons to the decisions taken by the information provided by the platform. So the platform, we are going to see it now, needs to be, I would say transparent, at least explainable. Okay. Second thing has to do with the judiciary function itself. A judge is not a mere, is not a person who has to take decisions based only on information given by third people or by a machine. The judge or the court, when he or they are taking a decision, they need to understand why the decision is taken. And again, because the platform says so, is not enough. Even it's not enough because police officers say so. Okay? So the judge needs to know, again, how the platform works, what kind of data have been used during the research or during the investigation, and why the platform gets the conclusions that the platform says is happening, in these social connections or network connections, and so on. Second challenge, or third challenge, accuracy, reliability. How can we be sure that the information provided by the platform is right? So again, the judge or the court need to be sure that the information is accurate, is reliable, and the parties need to know that, even for, defense themselves in court. So again, reliability only comes with validation, or at least some tests. We are going to see what kind of tools we are going to use for it, and again, showing how the platform works in order to show that it's reliable and that the results given during the investigation using the platform are really accurate. And all these connections that we could see yesterday in the presentation, they are, they answer to the reality. Okay, so this is the third thing. And the fourth main challenge for us has been the privacy and dignity. When we are using this amount of data to construct, to build an investigation, data coming from different sources, we need to be sure that the use of this data has been ethic, but not only ethic, legal too, that intimacy has been respected during the collection of data, that these data are clean, that this data is also sure or are quality data, and so on. And this has to do with personal rights, the privacy rights, intimacy rights, and sometimes we need to ask ourselves if the use of this great amount of data it is proportional to the goals of an investigation. Because, this data sometimes are going to belong to the people who are involved in the investigation, in the commission of the crime, but, many of these data are going to be used, and they belong to citizens that with no relation with the crime or with the investigation. And the thing that we have to answer here is, to what point it is ethic, it is legal, it is proportionate to use this data in a criminal investigation. So these are the challenges. the next thing is which one are the answers for these challenges. The first clue that we are going to follow to fulfill this, or at least to try to answer these questions, is the regulation. And now, we didn't have this at the beginning of the project, but now we have the European law. Okay, we have the European regulation, what is usually called the AI Act. It's not an act, legally speaking, but of course, most of you don't care about that. Okay, so what is the regulation for what it's worth in the European Act? The first one, the Act is not specifically intended for criminal justice or for criminal investigation, but somehow is related, or some of the provisions are related. The first one has to do with the classification of the algorithms of the AI devices. The European regulation follows a risk-based approach. It means that when is at stake a value or a principle that is worthy, considering the European law and the European regulations, then the AI Act is going to impose to the providers of AI tools to make some or to design these algorithms following some requirements. In short, everything that is used in the field of criminal justice is a high-risk algorithm. So every AI tool used in criminal investigation or criminal justice related is high risk. What does it mean in terms of regulation? It means that in the design and in the deployment of this kind of tools, we need to follow this kind of principles. Transparency, explainability. What kind of transparency is enough? We don't know exactly, but I would say it is enough, the transparency that fulfills the goals because of this transparency is intended. For instance, if what we want to protect is defendants' rights, transparency should be enough to guarantee these defendant rights. So the defendant needs to know or needs to have at least the information enough to defend him or herself. Okay, so if I am convicted with an evidence that has been using AI, so I need to, as a defendant, to understand the main reasons because, that have led to my conviction. Okay, so this kind of transparency, explainability maybe is a more accurate word in this case, but both things are going to be important. Human oversight, no high-risk algorithm can be driven by itself, so we always need somebody in command, somehow. Data quality, this is a huge thing. We are not sure, or we cannot be sure if our tool is reliable, if the data with which this tool has been fed is not quality data. Okay, so this is another important thing. I don't have the time to go down and to explain, the specifics, but, the principle is this. We need to be sure from the very beginning, training, deployment, all the phases of the design and deployment of the algorithm, that the data used are quality data. And finally, the technical security. Robustness is the word sometimes used by the AI Act. So protection against hacking the algorithm, protection against stealing the data, this kind of things. Okay, so yeah, this is the first part. This is the legal frame that we have. Then how we design the platform, how we design the AI tool to fulfill these requirements. So here is the part in which the technicians of UDC have helped us to show which kind of technical tools or technical ways to create a safe environment, an environment in the AI tool that protects these fundamental rights, and somehow that can be useful to solve the challenges that we have shown. Okay, so first one, standardization. So in the deliverable, we show what kind of documents we have for constructing standards of forensic validation of evidence. And this kind of standards usually talk about explainability and traceability. Again, trying to understand how the tool works, trying to explain to legal actors how the tool works in a way that these legal actors can understand. Now, this is also important. It's not only that we don't use very opaque tools, machine learning and deep learning, so on, but also we have to translate the technical features in order to, normal people, legal normal people, if there is such a thing, that can be understood by them. Okay, so then structural certification and functional verification. So it's not only that we have to assure that we have followed all the requirements in the design phase, so the deployment phase is also very important. We need to prove in court that the thing works. That we have done things in the past and this investigation have been accurate. That the tool is not only working theoretically, that is working into the reality. Okay, and the methods for doing this are several. Keeping the chain of custody in case of presenting the evidence in court. But I would like to comment, because I'm running out of time, probably to make clear to the courts and to the defendants how accurate is the tool. Which one are the error rates? For instance, now courts rely on DNA analysis because scientists have demonstrated that DNA analysis is 99% accurate. So maybe we cannot be sure if our tool is 99%, but we need to be clear with the court and show to the court which one are the estimated error rates. It's 80%. 80% is not fine. Okay, so it's fine, I would say. So maybe the court can rely on a kind of evidence like this. So, and also auditability. Making the tool clear for third people, third experts that can validate from outside the tool is also a very important thing. Okay, so these are the frameworks or regulatory frameworks for the standardization. We need to deal with this dual validation, technical and legal. And through that, we have included in the document several key recommendations that, have to do with all that I have said before. Explainability, testing scenarios to prove that the tool works. Documentation that can provide useful information to third people and to courts, and the independent oversight. Of course, it wouldn't be bad to make some legal reforms all around Europe in order to introduce AI evidence as a specific evidentiary tool in the criminal law or criminal justice law system. Okay, so this is mostly what I wanted to say. I'm more or less been fixed to the time. So maybe we are going to have some time to discuss it at the end of the round table. And if not, I am, of course, available for you if you want to make questions, during the breaks or during the lunch. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention. And now I'm going to give the floor to Fernando.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So the presentation is ready. Thank you for having me here. For me, it's a big pleasure to be with all of you, and it's real. in the two senses of that is a pleasure. First of all, because I am part of the ethics board and I know the work you have done, and I am following the project with a lot of interest, and it's very nice to see the faces, real deliverables, and all of that. And yeah, it's a pleasure for me to be with you. The first time I was with you, it was online, and I have to say it's not the same. This is really amazing. It's crazy. And the second reason is because of that. It's a pleasure because of Venice. What a city you live in or you work in. It's really amazing, amazing place. Well, I'm going to talk about something that has been in all the meeting. You are talking about the topic that I am going to try to explain, but like in a very fussy way. And I'm going to try to explain what is going to happen in the future. What is supposed to happen in the future and what we should try to make possible to happen in the future around the idea of data spaces. I am going to talk about what are the data spaces, what is now EU dealing with, and what should be the next steps, in my opinion, Tessera can be involved related to this. I will try to go very fast. I have a presentation with a lot of text, so I can share the presentation with anybody who wants it. I will try to go to the deep things because I think with 10 minutes will be enough, and then we can have some time for questions if you are interested in something. So that's the name of the presentation: Data for Cultural Heritage Security, from data gaps to responsible sharing and EU data spaces. Well, the idea from which I part is that cultural heritage trafficking fight sits between two fields, and today that was said. We are in two different worlds with very different particularities, but at the same time with the same goal, more or less, not exactly the same: criminal investigation and academic research. Of course, they pursue different goals and constraints, and the result is a very fragmented thing. Case-driven insights rarely become really comparable knowledge, and long-run studies seldom feed back into operations. So the main idea of my presentation is that operational policing and academic research at the end are interdependent. Policy investigations, of course, first of all, needs methods, needs baselines, and need tools that research validates. It's true that police officers and LIAs can create tools, but these tools have to be validated. At the same time, research needs data. Essentially needs data. If we don't have operational data, we cannot study patterns, we cannot create tools, and we cannot validate and evaluate what works and what doesn't. So to train and validate algorithms, we need good data. And for that, it's good that we understand the kind of problems that we have related to the research on trafficking in cultural goods, both in criminal investigation and in research. In criminal investigation, we have a lot of problems that have been explained, more or less. First of all, time matters a lot. In research, also, but not the way that in criminal investigation. Case-bound decisions, uncertainty, and we have to make decisions all the time. We have the problem of confidentiality that is a reality, source protection, law protection from those that are involved in the research, in the criminal investigation, operational security. We have, of course, evidence rules that sometimes make things more complicated for what the data itself could be, but that we especially criminal investigation forces, have to follow chain of custody and admissibility standards. Then we have the multi-agency and cross-border coordination, jurisdiction conflicts, but also between forces, between LIAs in the same country, in the different regions. We have legal thresholds, proportionality that has to be a main thing. We have resource limitations that we don't talk about it, but LIAs have a lot of problems attending resource limitations, people that really is involved in this kind of research. And yeah, we have the media and the political scrutiny that also is a very important thing. And what about research? Research, we have ethicals approved. Hi guys, I'm the ethical guy, so that used to say, no, you cannot do that, you cannot do that. We have participant protection, that is very important, that's why we are there. The way we access to field settings. We need funding, that is a very important thing. We need all the time funding, and the funding doesn't work in a way that there are cycles and comes, there are some topics in agenda, and there are moments that are not, so we can have to adapt and change our platforms to try to go to a new funding cycle. So this is a thing. We have a problem of conceptual fragmentation, sometimes because of academics, but not only, sometimes because of reality is difficult to conceptualize. Lack of shared measures, interdisciplinary friction, yeah, all the time. Sociologists fighting with psychologists and with criminologists and with, I don't know, in the case of archaeologists and the historians, but I can imagine the same. So we have problems in recruiting and in sampling, and very big problems on external validity. Yeah, we say we need to do validity, but do we really need? How good is our sample if we don't know how good is the whole sample, the whole end of nothing? And then we have the reproducibility and transparency demands. And that means very big obstacles for replication. We have seen a lot of papers published in Q1 journals saying this is a very interesting research on this. Cannot be reproduced by no one because I only have access to the data. In moments of open science, we have to change that, but we can change that really. We can use operational data, for example, for being accessible to anyone. The thing is that I really believe sharing data between academia and LIAs can be good for both. I'm not going to spend time on this, but here are some good examples and good advantages and results of sharing data. The thing is that it's true that AI, we can talk about AI really, what is AI, but AI technologies can really simplify research and can provide new tools useful for criminal investigations. But for that, for creating that kind of tools, who are going to create it? LIAs directly can be academics, firms, companies. What do we need? Maybe we can do it together, but what do we need for doing it? Especially what we need is good data and good data sets. That is not the same. And that is very important, and that's what really we need. We need, and we have a lot of problems related to that. I don't have time to explain all, but usually about availability, we have partial data sets. We live in a world of inaccessible silos. I have my data set, like Gollum, my treasure, so I will not share with no one. I don't know why, but this is a big problem that we have. Missing jurisdiction sectors, problems of seizure. We have, of course, the problem of continuity. Yeah, we have good data for this year. And what does that mean? I cannot do nothing with that, or I can do some things, but what can I really do with that? We need good series that are not broken. We have quality. We need quality data. Quality in the sense that fits for the purpose. What mean quality data if we don't go, and Julio has said it perfectly, to the real goal for what is going to be used? We need to avoid duplicates. We need to create the measurement error of okay, we need it, but related to what goal and with what kind of data really that we have in the real world. And we need comparability and interoperability. That's why yesterday I asked about ontologies. We need to interoperate. If I have my data and it's very good and he has his data and this data talk a different language, what are we going to do with that? Probably nothing. Then we have the problem of governance. We have to decide how and what, because if we have layers involved, we cannot say, okay, everything, the data is open for everybody. We need a governance. We need traceability and metadata. And the question is, and this is the key thing, until we fix availability, continuity, comparability, and shareability with also clear governance, investigation and research will keep flying partly blind. So, yeah, thank you. So what is coming? What is coming is what is called the data spaces. This is a European strategy for data. It's what is called a common European data space that, is supposed to create sectoral data spaces, trusted frameworks to share data without any centralization. So you can enter to the place, you can be accepted, and then you can have a lot of data interoperable to do what you are supposed to do, to create new products, to develop AI, to train your algorithms, to everything. That is what is coming. Share without centralizing, common rules, share language in legal, in ethical, and also in semantic sense, and purpose-bound and minimize access. So the ethical is going to be, if you need it, you have to explain me for what do you need it so I can apply the test of proportionality from the beginning, and I will tell you the kind of data that you are going to access to. So we have there are a lot of sectors where this is beginning to be applied. Health is #1 now. The data space for health is the one that is more applied at this moment. We are in a project, Crimina is in a project that is applying the security data space. I have to say that we are in a initial step talking about what should be the security data space. Is a very, very, very small step in this European project. There is also a cultural heritage data space that is a little bit more evolved. So let me talk a little bit about what is that and what would be that in the future and what could be. And also, in the next slide, what could be the role of Tessera inside of this? So the idea of the data spaces is that participants keep their databases. And the space, what provides, is the rules and pipes. So you will have a catalog, a big catalog of the kind of data that you can access, data sets that you can access to. You do a request access for a legitimate purpose, and you will receive minimized data via connectors under a governance authority. So you will have a catalog of what kind of data. You will have connectors. You will have an engine about how you have to identify yourself and how do you have to relate. You will have transparency nodes, so every data sets ships with transparency nodes. For some kind of data, for protecting, is not the same GDPR that directive law for law enforcement, for example, but can, in some cases, can be some rules related with some kind of sensitive data that have to be applied. If it's sensitive data, the rules will be different. If it's this kind of data, will be different rules. So maybe anonymization, maybe it will be for some kind of data, maybe for some not. And there will be interoperability, and that is a very important thing. So the idea is that also the interoperability is between data spaces. So maybe for the cultural heritage space, we can go from there. So one thing that I want to finish, without saying it, is that when we are going about data spaces, we are not going about LIAs sharing data between them. We are talking about much more things. We are talking with LIAs, for example, sharing their own data with companies, for companies developing products, developing tools that in the future can be used by LIAs, for example. Because if we don't train with real data, it's going to be impossible. So that is the most important thing. Maybe they have to pay for developing that tool, and we are going to also sell some kind of data. In cultural heritage, they are talking about selling data, and also in health for developing products for pharmaceutical companies. In the case of security, it's going to be different. Maybe, yes, but it's going to be and has to be. Is the only way that we can include people to develop tools that are going to be useful. If not, we are going to create tools without having the data that really have the LIAs for doing what is needed to do, and that is very important. And how this relates all with the project RITHMS, and I have a minute or less, 45 seconds, I believe, was going to be written for that. So the thing is, I really believe that the most important thing is that you have worked with a kind of data space without knowing it, more or less, but with the same philosophy. And this is very interesting and very promising for the future, in my opinion. So the most important thing is, first of all, and I believe is the idea of this project, is keep the bridges alive. So publish all what can be public. That some things I believe can. The ontology, for example, that is going to be very important, and other things. So all that can be public, please publish it. Working to a standardization of the language, because there are other projects that are working in different ontologies and different things, so we need to standardize this. Improve comparability and, of course, access, and try to train out of the consortium. So I believe that sharing metadata and aggregated indicators, you can contribute to something that will be the first step for a future concrete hub of data that can be in the European data space for security and for cultural heritage, trying to avoid illegal trafficking of these goods. That's what I had to say, more or less. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fernando. I'm sorry for the rush, but I mean, you know, being the chair is not very pleasant sometimes. Okay, so data. I mean, very interesting, key issue. I mean, we deal with it in the deliverable. Very hard. They say data are gold. Nobody wants to share their gold, right? So, but I mean, let's see if we can do that, as in with open science scams and all of this. So, yeah, now we are going to open the floor to Jordi Nieva. Jordi is also going to deal with some other things that are in the deliverable. Especially, Jordi, I want to hear your opinion about these main challenges that the AI tools pose on criminal justice, but especially, I mean, the usefulness, I mean, the utility, because sometimes we are so focused on the challenges, and I mean, how useful these tools can be for improving the investigation, but also for improving defendants' rights, and the good working of criminal justice is also good. So thank you very much for being here again, and the floor is yours, Jordi.
Thank you very much, Julio. Thank you very much for your invitation here in this wonderful city in Venice. L'unica cosa che voglio dire per cominciare è che mi dispiace non parlare in italiano. Per la prima volta, no, la seconda volta in Italia. But many people here don't speak Italian, don't understand the language, so I will follow my presentation speaking in English. This is the modern koine. It's better that it's English than Greek, for instance, because in the past English was Greek when all these artistical goods were produced. So I think we have to take this advantage of speaking a more simple language. Well, me, I am a proceduralist. In Spain, I deal with both civil procedure and criminal procedure. But today I will concentrate on criminal procedure, and I will focus on something that is really very important in criminal procedures, but not always is the main goal of the lawyers or the judges when they deal with these procedures. I am talking, as strange as it may seem, I am talking about evidence. So what kind of evidence do you have to have when prosecuting, investigating, or judging, adjudicating in all these cases? And to make my presentation more clear, I will divide my exposition between different types of crimes, so as to let you think about the main means of evidence in investigating this kind of crime. And I will start with, well, maybe the easiest one or the first one you think when you deal with that is theft and robbery. So how do you do things to investigate theft and robbery? Well, theft and robbery is always a matter of identifying the good that has been robbed, of course, or has been theft, and also to identify the pre-existence of the good. So maybe the good has disappeared, but if we cannot find it, we have to confirm that the good ever existed. Well, this is the normal thing to do when you deal with normal thefts. But in this situation, we are dealing with ancient goods. So we cannot confirm the existence of the good just because someone is saying that it existed. Or we cannot rely on catalogs of museums of foreign countries, because maybe some of these goods were already forgery in these countries. So we have to be very careful when dealing with this kind of cultural goods. That's why in this context, the main evidence is not witness testimony, because if you are going to find witnesses in the country where the goods were produced or were robbed, well, maybe you won't find anyone, or you won't find a country ready to send you some witnesses to be interrogated in your country, so this is not so easy. So the only really reliable thing, that you can do is to assess expert evidence. But this is not so easy, because expert evidence, well, my colleagues have already spoken about that. Expert evidence is not something that the judge can understand. In expert evidence, we are in front of a kind of paradox. Usually, when we want to know something, we find an expert, and this expert assesses the topic we are dealing with. But in expert evidence, we do things the other way around. We call an expert, and then we tell the judge, you have to assess what this expert has said. So we ask a non-expert person to assess what an expert has said. And this is a paradox, of course. Maybe not so, we don't think about that usually, but it's really a big trouble in not only this kind of procedures, but also in many procedures of nowadays that are still or increasingly complicated. That's why in the United States existed or was produced this judgment that Julio was quoting before, this Daubert judgment. This judgment is from 1993, and this judgment, with a big effort, gave some kind of 5 criteria to allow judges to assess expert evidence, just to help them. So let's see if these 5 criteria work in our usual expert evidence in these cases. I have just taken an example, but we can take the example you want. Many of you are archaeologists, so if you want to make another example afterwards, we can do the same test with another example. But I have selected radiocarbon dating, also referred as carbon dating or carbon-14 dating. Well, first criteria or criterion, whether the technique or theory in question can be and has been tested. Yes, of course, radiocarbon dating has been tested. We can rely on that, but we know that it's depending on a lot of conditions that are not always under control when doing this test. So it's not just like saying to an archaeologist or a biologist, do that, and you have just one day to do that. No, you have to have the real good conditions to deal with every specific cultural good, and this is not so easy. So the first criterion, well, it works, but it depends on the quality of the test you are doing. Second criterion, whether it has been subjected, the technique, to publication and peer review. Of course, if you go to Google Academics, you can find thousands of articles about radiocarbon dating, so this is not a problem. You will just find that it's also very controversial, so you cannot always rely on every radiocarbon dating. And this is also, of course, a problem for the judge to believe in the assessment of the expert testimony. The third criterion is the known or potential error rate of the technique, so of radiocarbon dating. And it depends on how it has been done. But an error rate exists. And this is very helpful for the judges because they can see if the technique is reliable to the 90%, the 80%, the 70%, and this in terms of presumption of innocence, of producing a judgment beyond any reasonable doubt. I'm sure you have heard about it. It's really important to know if it's 90, 80, 70, or 60. So this could help the judge a lot. Of course, the fourth criterion is the existence and maintenance of a standard controlling its operation. And this is something that unfortunately falls out of control of the judge. The judge has no means to control the quality of the technique. It is this way. So this is a very huge problem for that. And the fifth criterion is the oldest one, is whether the scientific community has accepted the technique. And this is very widespread, also if it's controversial. Well, I have talked just about one expert evidence. Imagine how can be with the other possible tests that have to be done. But it's important to know that all these difficulties exist, because if you don't know that, you make that processes, that judicial processes, are a matter not of science, but a matter of faith. And as Nietzsche put it in the past, faith can sanctify, but you cannot believe things, real things, with faith. So you cannot use faith or intuition in a process. Well, you will always find this stone in your shoe when dealing with the other crimes, when looting, for looting, for forgery of cultural goods, and also for related crimes including fraud, disposal of stolen goods, smuggling, and also money laundering when buying these cultural goods for making this tax evasion or terrorism financing. But just in these 4 minutes that I have left, how can AI assist a judge in the investigation of this crime? Well, AI is suitable for everything that can be parameterized. So, do we have databases that talk about these cultural goods? Yes, we do. We have a lot of catalogs, we have a lot of studies about these books, just to assess the pre-existence of the goods, the antiquity of those goods, and also the morphological details of the samples. And this is very important, because if we have all this data, then this could help the judge to assess the expert evidence. So to confront the conclusions of the tool, so to say, with the conclusions of the expert evidence. And furthermore, if you have a tool that really tells you not all the details, but many details of the goods you are dealing with, maybe you could also reduce the cost of litigation, because hiring an expert witness is not an easy thing to do, and it's not a cheap thing to do. So, as far as we have this data, we have to use them. And to say the things clear, I don't really see a problem of privacy in these databases, because we are talking not about the data, the private data of private persons, but we are talking about the data of cultural goods. So about the assets of mankind. So I don't think this is really a problem. The only problem, and it was also mentioned by my colleagues, is that the producer of the AI tool has to say us how it works, because you cannot let in a process the usage of something you cannot understand, because then you would have a problem with the right to defend, the right of defense. So when you deal with a judge, you know how the judge thinks, because it's another human being as you. But if you have to quarrel with a machine, you have to know how the machine works, so as to being able to defend your client of the assessments of the machine, if I can say things so. I'm sure there are many more questions about that. I had other questions also prepared here, but we are going to have a discussion afterwards, so I stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Jordi, and again, sorry for the rush. I mean, also we deal with this in the deliverable. I mean, how to apply the criteria for scientific evidence or expert testimony to AI evidence. And for that, again, we need follow the standards. I mean, the standards set by international community or scientific community, and to provide external validation. And in doing both things, we need to make clear how the tool works and give to this community, or to these experts, the documentation that shows how the tool works, and somehow open the working of the tool to third people. That is not always so easy. I don't know if we have time for a quick question from the floor. So if there are questions, so maybe we have time for one.
I can bring about the mic if someone else.
Okay, well, I don't know if there are questions. So, okay, we have one.
Test, test. Okay. Thank you so much for your presentations. They were very interesting. So forgive me because this isn't my area of expertise, but I think one of the advantages of RITHMS is that its outputs are reproducible using other methods and can be validated using kind of local, I suppose, statistical analysis and network analysis. Do you think that there is any possibility for sort of black box AI systems with non-reproducible outputs to ever meet evidentiary admissibility standards? Or is this, I mean, what can you say on this?
Okay, that's a very good question, and you can find hundreds of papers talking about that. But, I mean, I don't know if you want to answer it or give your opinion about this.
Jordi first.
Okay, so Jordi, go ahead if you want.
No, well, it's the same thing. If I understood understood rightly, your question is the same thing I was telling at the end of my presentation. So it's easy. So the problem is that that in the United States they used a tool. It's called Compass. And they didn't ask the company to disclose how the algorithm works, and they accepted that fact. And they brought the case to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said nothing. We have nothing to do with that, so we are not going to deal with this topic. And this was, of course, an error, because there is a risk, or not a risk, there is a very real danger of vulnerating the right to defense. So I would be very clear. So I know you are a company, I know you want to sell us your product, I know you want to be useful for tribunals, but unless you tell us how it works, we are not going to use your tool, we are not going to buy your tool. That's it. That's it. So is this easy to do? Well, it won't be easy, because I'm sure that following the example of the United States, many countries will say, well, okay, they are companies, they have to earn money, so let's forget about that. This is a useful tool. Let's do things, let's be straightforward. No, I mean, many countries can accept this reality, but I don't think it should be the reality of European countries. At least this, no? There are many things in the United States, and we have many examples in the last few months, that things are done there that we would never do them. So I think this is one of the best examples of doing things in judicial procedures, but I don't want to extend my question because I'm sure Fernando wants to talk about that.
Yes, I totally agree with the point, but yeah, I believe there is a misunderstanding about the word opacity. What means opacity, and also the word black box. What means a black box? In the case that Jordi was talking about, it was the case of Compass. That was also he explained it well in his book. It's a problem of copyright and a lot of things related to that. But lack of transparency is not only the problem. Sometimes you can have a very transparent algorithm that you cannot trace it. And sometimes you have a algorithm that is transparent and is traceable and it's not explainable. And what Jordi is talking about is that what you really need is explainability. And I believe that is very important to understand the difference between these. Even sometimes we can use it as synonyms, and there is no problem on that. But what means explainable? What kind? I cannot tell some work that I'm doing now for National Police of Spain about an algorithm that we are using, and that with some mathematicians we are creating an algorithm that is very good and is better, but we cannot use it, and they are not going to use it because also the mathematicians that are working in my team, they cannot explain why the result works that way because they are using neural networks. And sometimes with neural networks, it's true that there is a myth that deep learning now is not explainable. Sometimes you can find ways of explaining things, not only in machine learning. Machine learning is clear because you can train and you can know how the relationships work from the beginning. Maybe not, it depends on if you use random forest, maybe you cannot explain why happened at the end this the way happened. But in neural networks, for example, you can have big problems to understand why this variable is explaining the way, because you don't have the weight of each variable. So we can use that. In my opinion, it depends. And the question is so difficult to explain that I don't have time for doing now. But I agree with what Jordi says, but at the same time, we have to change the way we understand evidence in times of artificial intelligence, in times of that science is also changing. There are epistemological changes, very big ones, on what we mean on explanation now. Because also the word of explanation in philosophy of science is a very complicated word that we use in a very generalistic way. So all this is changing, and it's the moment that we have to say, as they are saying, what we need, what purpose. And for example, for judicial evidence, it's clear what we need. I need to defend myself. I need a lot of things that have to be erased. For police, can be some different things. So that's why we need, in all times, understanding what is the clear thing for what I need to explain in what kind of language that makes me the possibility of defending myself or whatever.
Yeah, so, sorry, we are running out of time, so I cannot let you to go on. But just in short, I mean, it's very difficult. I agree with, both of them. And if we understand black box as the absolute impossibility to understand how the system works, I wouldn't say we cannot use it. In social science, when we are dealing with human behavior, nothing is black and white, right? So everything depends on the criteria. So all the connections that we saw yesterday, right? These connections are not only statistical things, are also, they have a value. What they mean. What they mean? What does the connection mean? So if we don't know what it means, so we cannot assess properly the evidence. It's not just that I cannot defend myself. The thing is, I cannot even rely on what the machine is telling to me because I don't understand why. And we people, we need to understand why in order to make decisions. Usually. Okay, thank you very much for your attention, and thank you, both of you, for your presentations.
Thank you very much. Thank you all the panelists. It's really a pity to have to stop you. I would have loved to hear a lot more, but I'm sure there will be other occasions. Certainly, this is a discussion that has to be done, and I'm sure there will be other situations and occasions in which we can discuss this. And now we are going towards something much lighter, and we will actually enjoy a short movie presented by our crime project, APS, which, as you know, is is the third party of IIT. This first short film is titled The Crater and is directed by Alessandro Garilli. I ask Alessandro and I invite him to the stage for a brief introduction of the movie, this one and the one that we will see after lunch, and the concept development. So I would like him to tell us a few words before we start the screening of the movie.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank our Crime Project for awarding my works, our works, and the organizers of this final event for inviting me here in this wonderful city and wonderful location. So I speak little English. I know 6 or 7 words, but I try to explain the essence of the short film Il Cratere. The protagonist of this cinematic work is a crater by Ophronius, the Levy-White crater. I chose this artwork for several reasons. For its incredible odyssey and for its beauty, but also for 2 other elements. On this crater, there is the red figure of Kychnos. Kychnos was a bandit, was a thief, and a stolen artwork with a thief painting on its body. To my eyes, it was an omen. It was a promotion. And the second element, on the back of the crater, the red figures have been erased by time, and the surface is now completely black. So, in that black space, I thought of letting new red figures appear, obviously in the style of Ophronius, to narrate the modern story of the crater, from its death in Italy to its arrival in Texas and then in New York. When I wrote the screenplay, I had a wish. I wanted to humanize the artwork. Art tells art, or art narrates art crimes. That was my concept. And so, in this short film, it is the artwork itself that narrates its incredible journey and that reveals its emotion to us. Well, I apologize for my terrible pronunciation. Enjoy the film.
So I'll leave the floor now to this first short movie. That I didn't see it before, and because APC didn't allow me to do so, although I'm the coordinator, but okay. But I think, well, I can say that I'm really moved by this short movie, because I know very well the story of the Euphronius crater, but it's the first time that I've seen, this story told with so much feeling and sentiment. So I really would like to thank the movie director. It's really splendid. I'm sure that it will have a great success once we start to share it. It's a really a wonderful and also very precise, short movie. It is, and I'm sure everybody else also that has seen it is sharing the same feeling. So thank you very much. Thank you, and we are looking forward to see the second movie after lunch. So I would like to invite everybody to go down in the cloister where last evening we took the pictures, because lunch is going to be served there. And I ask you to reconvene all here at 2 p.m. sharp, so that we can start the second part of the event, and we can see the other short movie. And we can also run the third round table and the following parts of the afternoon. So thank you very much again for everybody. Thank you for those that are still listening online, and we reconnect at 2 p.m. Thank you. And we are now starting the second part of the final event of RITHMS project. As I mentioned before, starting before finishing during the previous before lunch, we will start the second session with the screening of another documentary, short movie, and also in this case it's the product of the work of Art Crime Project, together with the same with Alessandro Garilli, the same movie director that was here with us before. And the documentary you are going to see follows, in a sense, the same type of approach with heritage that speak about crime against cultural heritage. So I would like to present this other short movie, which is titled The Concert. Thank you very much. Also, this one is very, very nice. It was, again, the first time I saw it myself. So, again, very, very moving. And now we can move to the rest of the afternoon, with the following step in our agenda. The third round table of today, the round table number 3, Digital Technologies for Investigating Illicit Trafficking. On this third round table, we will shift the focus more specifically on technology. And we will look at the tools available for law enforcement to investigate illicit trafficking, the challenges of procurement, and the training needs to ensure effective use of the tools that are available. So it's now my pleasure to introduce the chair of this roundtable, Tobias Mattes, from the Bayern School of Police, and the other panelists. We have here with us Isabelle Meslier, and we have Paula Videira Figueiro. I think that we have Cameron online. Cameron Walter is online. We're sorry not to have you here with us, Cameron. We hope for other future, situations in which you can join us in person. So thank you very much in any case for being here today, and I leave the floor to Matthias for the chairing of the session.
Thank you. Welcome now to this third round table on this day. Good afternoon and warm welcome also from my side to this round table. The title of the table was mentioned by Ariana before, Digital Technologies for Investigating Illicit Trafficking, Procurement and Training Needs of LEAs. Thanks in advance also to the panelists and the audience for the follow-up discussion we will have. And we want to discuss innovative tools, procurement challenges, and training needs. But before we start, I invite all the panelists for a short introduction by themselves. I would say, Paula, please.
Yes. Okay. Good afternoon to you all. First of all, I would like. Okay. Now? Oh, okay. So thank you to you all. Thank you, the organization, to invite us to participate in this panel. It will be a short participation, but I hope it will be a positive one. My name is Paula Videira. I'm a chief inspector in the Polícia Judiciária, Portuguese Polícia Judiciária, and I am graduated in law. I practiced law for some years, and in 1999 I was admitted at the Polícia Judiciária force. I was in a team that investigated sexual crimes for 23 years, and now, as I become a chief inspector, I'm the head of the brigade that investigates cultural heritage crimes. At Lisbon, we have only one team doing that. Polícia Judiciária, just to make a brief presentation, is a police force aimed to the investigation of the most complex crimes, organized crime, special organized crime, and violent crime. We have exclusive jurisdiction in this kind of crimes. So the crimes against cultural heritage is exclusive jurisdiction for Polícia Judiciária. We have also, I will have to see for not making any mistake in the description, the intelligence system at the national level, and we ensure the connection for the Portuguese authorities with international organizations such Interpol and Europol. And for presentation is all.
Thank you, Paula. And now I give the floor to Isabel.
Thank you, Tobias. I already introduced myself yesterday. I will just speak about the Europol Innovation Lab, which is existing since has been existing since 5 years, and has been tasked to foster the technological cooperation and co-creation with the member states and the Schengen associated countries. And for that, we have set up a certain number of core group, meaning working groups on specific topics, and I'm in charge of 3 of them. One is dealing with secure communication, another one with satellite imagery, and the third one with illicit traffic of cultural goods, which is one of my major concerns. And I think that's it. For those who were not yesterday there, I'm a French senior police officer, and I'm seconded within different institutions, European institutions, for 8 years now, and I am in Europol since 2022. Sorry.
Thank you, Isabel. At the moment, our third panelist, Mr. Cameron Walter from the OSCE, is not in the room. We are waiting for him, we will bridge the time with a short presentation, or the starting presentation. If he joins later on, we will give him the floor after the presentation to introduce himself. But now let's start the short presentation as first point of our discussion in the table, where we want to talk about the rhythm training concept. How did we set it up in our project? So these training measures were key parts of our project, because our goal was not only to develop tools and methods, but also to make sure that law enforcement agencies are actually able to use them in practice. In a few minutes, I will walk you through the training concept, how we implemented it, and what content we delivered, and finally, what this means for the future uptake after the end of RITHMS. It's hard to say it after the end of RITHMS. Okay. First of all, when we look at the training concept, our aims and objectives, as I mentioned, was familiarize RITHMS SNA-based platform and its components to the LEA structure. And here, our first challenge was, because in a LEA structure, you have to differentiate. You have to differentiate between the investigator and the data analyst who pre-process the data to produce intelligence. And as we mentioned yesterday, in more situations too, is that at the moment our platform will produce intelligence, and the targeted user, the main targeted user, is a data analyst that pre-process data that in the second step the investigator can step in and use his pre-processed information for his investigations. Our training needs, there is this from the European Union Strategic Training Needs Assessment from 2022 until 2025 report. In this is mentioned in the area of cultural heritage crime, capacity building among cultural heritage experts and different institutions like police officers, border guards, custom officers, etc. is recommended related to the ways in which trafficking in cultural goods is tackled. Thus, one of the identified and prioritized training needs is capacity building among cultural heritage experts, including a network of experts that member states could use within the MPACT framework. And we hit with our training concept all of these mentioned points. For the methodology, we set up 4 modules, each comprising learning units, and the content of these learning units were developed with all partners, depends on their field of research and their participation. To validate this training concept, we had during the project lifetime 2 training workshops beyond the consortium. One within the consortium in Rome on the 7th and 8th of April 25, and the second one with beyond the consortium, so also with external LEAs and stakeholders in Munich on the 20th June of 2025. In Rome, we had at the workshop a group of 27 people participating, including members of the consortium, and there have been a good exchange between this, especially the 15 representative LEAs from 6 different countries that came there together and discussed these first methodologies and training results we had in here. The content and the agenda was very close to the curriculum that was developed during the project in the deliverable 6.8 and 6.9, and besides an introduction to knowledge management in common and knowledge graphs, sessions were given on data collection, data cleaning, as well as data correlation and social network analysis. Each module was built of 10 to 40-minute sessions, so not too long, to bring it to a point. But as I mentioned, these 2 workshops were mainly focused on validating the systematic approach we had behind, and I can say so far it worked really great, and we made it to train these officers to use the software and to do their first hands-on. When talking about the content, the content of the trainings. As I mentioned, we have here these 4 modules. The first one focused on cultural heritage, crime, and law enforcement, like a criminological introduction, to bring more information about this field of crime to the officers, because as mentioned also in other presentations today, there's a large way on which we are. And in some, not in all countries, but in some countries, dealing with cultural heritage crime is still struggling, and we as LEA are fighting here for resources like personal staff, personal capacities, etc. So it is also important to bring here a common ground of knowledge about this criminological field. The second part is data, information, knowledge, wisdom, and security, the theoretical introduction into the platform and all this stuff. And then going more in detail in the third part, in the data collection and data cleaning part, in the basic functionalities, how to handle the platform, how to handle a social network analysis tool. And then at the end, the final one, the data processing, so the correlation analysis and social network analysis with advanced functionalities. So when going more in detail, we have there for each of these topics in the modules different learning units, and we provide with our training material at the end of the project a high-level prepared curriculum that could be implemented in the common LEA structures across Europe, but always something I have to mention is it has to be customized to the legal framework in each country, because there are several regulations like the GDPR or whatever that is Europe-wide, but you have also some national regulations that has to be followed and rules, etc. So we set it up here, this complete set of training and training units that is also then available after the project. When going to the workshops, they were designed to provide the participants with a comprehensive introduction to our platform and the functionalities, combining this theoretical overview as mentioned with practical applications and operational scenarios demonstrated step by step. And as you see here, that was in short in the learn units that are more extended for the real life training. We broke it a little bit down, but the results here and the feedback was also that this approach works and we can go with it out in the field and train there. For us, from the feedback from the LEAs, we set it up also for these learning units and the learning parts, that these workshops, or that when we implement the system in a new LEA framework, there must be the training of minimum 4 days, and that should be separated trainings for analysts as well as intelligence officers. As mentioned, because the analysts, they go more in deep in the technique, and the intelligence officers learn how to work with the results. Yeah, this was a short glimpse here about our training framework, what we did in our project as high-level information. And now I want to go back to our panelists and start the discussion. Cameron is now online. Okay, then I give now the floor to Cameron. Sorry. Please, Cameron, maybe you can introduce yourself in 2 or 3 sentences to all the audience here online, here on premise.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you this week in Venice. I'm stuck here in Vienna for OSCE Borders Month. But my name is Cameron Walter. I'm head of the Heritage Crime Task Force and the Program to Combat Trafficking of Cultural Property here at the OSCE in Vienna, and have been working closely with the project for several years. It's been a pleasure to be part of the advisory board, and I'm looking forward to the discussion this afternoon.
Thank you, Cameron. And now let's start our short panel discussion with 2 general questions. The first one is, what innovative technologies do you consider most promising in supporting investigations in illicit trafficking of cultural goods? Maybe we start with you, Cameron, because we have you now on the big screen.
Sure, no problem. We've taken a sort of a long view on this on the last 3-4 years of hands-on training, simulation training, to see what works, what doesn't, and what's needed when we talk to not only police officers, but also border management, customs officials, and other practitioners in the field. Technology-wise, the one thing that we have noticed, and the one thing that we also impart with all the officers in our trainings and in our investigations, is that lots of those handheld tools, the things that are just relatively basic and easy to use, are often the most effective. And this includes using, the LiDAR scanner on your phone, using 3D scanners, the handheld type, to not only develop better technology and pictures, but in order to get a better idea of what something might look like or where it may have come from. But then to back that up, the most critical technology we're seeing, of course, is usable, workable databases, something that can not only reach a wide number of experts in real time, but something that can also, do identification of photos, of pictures, of other things, and be able to connect that information not just to the decision makers and to the say forensic analysts, but to frontline officers somewhere in real time, in order to make some sort of a decision, whether it's at a port of entry, whether it's at a roadside stop by police, or whether that's by an investigator at a crime scene. These are the sorts of things that we're really trying to sort of identify which particular pieces of kit are the most critical, which are the biggest, but honestly, a ridiculously good camera and phone, and a database to back it up. Of course, the database is the big ticket item here, the big money issue, and the one that's going to cause the most debate, as we've all been talking about, not only today, but also for the last several years. So that's my initial gut feeling, my initial gut answer to your question.
Thank you, Cameron. Then Isabel.
Many things have been said, but regarding the creation of the core group, we were completely aware of the lack of dedicated tool for investigators and analysts tackling illicit trafficking of cultural goods. I mean, the web crawler, dedicated web crawler, intelligence platform, and photo or image recognition that could be able to recognize if the artifact has been modified or not since it has been stolen. And also all this to shorten the time to make decision either for customs or to seek against databases. So these 4 tools, and we had a hackathon in June with 3 web crawlers in different, built in different philosophies, and the RITHMS platform. And my colleagues from the different countries, member states from the core group, were very happy to be able to see a showcase from the different tools. And we have thoughts that have been presented to our colleagues, and it was very successful as RITHMS intelligence platform. We had analysts that was very impressed by the tool. As a general meaning, we know that cultural goods that have been stolen or looted is traveling very fast. And as Alfio said this morning, the money laundering and the way the artifact is going out of the illegal market to the legal market is very important, and we need to shorten the time for the investigation.
Thank you, Isabel. And now, Paula, maybe you can share your insights to us.
Well, Mike. They say, my 2 partners in the table say pretty much our needs. I think the most promising technology that we can see in the present and for the future is the artificial intelligence. as a tool to develop and eventually create another tools that allow us to track the stolen goods, to analyze patterns of behavior in online markets, auction houses, and even around social media. In Portugal, we don't have a specific platform or web crawler to do this. We still search by ourselves as criminal investigators, but we already have a team, two teams actually, that work the intelligence surrounding the investigation and the needs of the investigation. Our problem, or maybe I leave this to the second question. So what is promising for us, and since I'm in this kind of investigation, these cultural heritage crimes, is to have these web crawlers that easily make us search and get results from the stolen goods that are reported to us. At the same time, I think it's very important to create a collaborative platform, and I think RITHMS goes that way, or is that response, probably is that response. I don't know if it's the only one, it's not my area of expertise, but these cooperative platforms and advanced databases. In the morning I heard the team of worldwide databases, and I think it's very important for us to have this kind of access in the investigation, because and as we saw the movie, something that is stolen in a place, it's not going probably staying in that place, and we have to have the tools to can search for that. And these are the most promising that I see briefly.
Okay, Paula, maybe we jump into, you started also answering the second question. Also, I haven't asked it yet. So what are the main barriers to ensure that LEAs can effectively procure, integrate, and be trained on these new technologies, like you mentioned, the web crawlers, intelligence platforms, AI tools, etc.?
Well, the most evident motive, at least for me, is economic one, the budget. These tools that are developed, most of them are very expensive, or at least it seemed to me they are expensive. Not only about the cost of having the tool, but the costs that come aggregated to the tool, if I make myself clear. So we have the tool, but then we have to have the training, and the training is not at one point. We have to have upgrades, because technology is like that. It's not static. This is an obstacle. This obstacle is economic and is budgetary, but it's also an obstacle of time, because if you want to have, if you need to have training, you need to have time to have your operationals in the training. And being a criminal investigator, we have investigations ongoing. So how do we deal with the needs of pursuing a crime and at the same time stop to get trained? I know there is already ways of doing that online, but this kind of tools needs practice. So we have to find here a balance, but this is also an obstacle. And I can see another that is related to the databases. We don't have a national databases. We don't have a worldwide database. So we have to work on it.
Yeah, really, because I'm with LEA background too, so I heard a lot of these problems in the past too, and yeah, I totally agree. And now maybe Cameron, you want to take over the floor? Cameron?
I'm here. Sorry, my camera seemed to have turned off. You see, there we go. Sorry. I am here. Yeah, no problem. From our view, I'm going to echo what was just said as well. There's definitely the issue of budgets and where we are in terms of a global economy and national budgets. But one thing I will say is I think there's an issue of prioritization as well amongst law enforcement agencies. And that's only because, it's up to us, and it's part of what we do, it's part of what all of you do as well, is making people understand and realize why this is an important area of crime to tackle. So, we see in national budgets all the time that the procurement priority goes to anything or any unit dealing with, say, weapons or narcotics or human trafficking, and that's understandable. Those present an obvious and visual danger, but what we're trying to help them understand is that this is, of course, linked to organized crime financing, terrorism financing, money laundering, and financing other areas of cross-border crime. So I think part of it's actually is going to be the awareness raising and some of the sensitization around it that'll help us get past some of those budget barriers in some ways. Otherwise, I think part of it is just that sometimes organizations and participating states, at least within the OSCE, always kind of want to have the full-on Ferrari version of a technology or a tool to start off with. And we're just trying to help everyone understand that, like you said, something as simple as an iPhone or a Samsung or any sort of relatively cheap handheld scanner or even a UAV, a drone, can actually make a big difference in some of these investigations downstream. So I will leave it at that.
Thank you, Cameron. Isabel, your thoughts?
I don't want to repeat, but for sure the budget and the economic cost and the time to train, to dedicated human resources to the tool is crucial. I mean, it's a real barrier that we can overcome by collaborating more, by sharing more, and it's also at the policy level to make this possible. I mean, about the databases, about the European procurement to be able to buy with economic costs that all the member states can afford, and we also have, as Europol, I mean, our role to play while putting at disposal the different tools that we can share with the different member states.
Yeah, maybe we step in here again. So how does your innovation lab or the Europol Innovation Lab concrete support these member states in adapting and scaling innovative technologies?
We are constantly working with member states' LEAs. We want to be very stuck to the ground and to the ground needs and the capacities. So we are co-creating reflection about specific needs, and once the lack has been identified, we are working on it, either to develop a methodology or to develop a technological tool or to ask if any technological tool is existing. And after we have our main goal is to put at disposal some tools to help the member states in a first purpose. The scale is not perhaps big enough to, at a first purpose, to have these tools to begin and to have tools for investigation. After, the next steps will be the procurement to help to go in a upper scale or having more resources. But even Europol is lacking of resources, to be honest. But we have also a cooperation group like Impact that then can help either for methodology, for training, and for operation, transnational operation. And as I mentioned, the tools are made available through the ETA tool repositories that I presented yesterday. And as a point, very in an additive mode is the Industry and Research Day that I'm organizing on behalf of the Europol every year in February. and we have innovative products that are presented. And this year we will have a day that will be dedicated to research project, either EU funded or Horizon Europe or ISF. So I invite RITHMS, even if the project would have ended in the meanwhile, to apply, because I think that the platform will be very impressive for my colleagues and the different member states that will come and attend the industry days. It will take place from 10 to 12 of February.
Maybe I jump in here and say, okay, accessibility is one factor, but what is about standardization? Could Europol play a stronger role in standardization of procurement or training framework through all Europe, for example?
Regarding the training, the training of the LEAs is took over by the EU agency called CEPOL, and we are, for the moment, for example, Jérémy Kespit, who is in charge of the ETR, is currently giving trainings in CEPOL for that purpose. We cannot give strong requirements for standardization because it's not our main purpose. Nevertheless, we discuss with the European CEN and CENELEC and ETSI to be sure that standardization could be taken in account for our tools and for security, tackling crime and terrorism. And you spoke about standardization, procurement. We are supporting some EU-funded projects who have for main purpose the procurement, help for the PCP, and we will help them to make a state of art and having a strong idea of what is needed and what is possible and affordable for the member states. Sorry.
Okay, Paula, from your practical point of view, where do you see the most urgent training gaps for first-line officers? Because you work with them whole day.
Yes, yes, we work with the first responders. Polícia Judiciária is not a first responder, but we need the first responders. What I experience in these kind of crimes is that we have a range of legal diplomas, national diplomas, and it's not easy to apprehend all of them at the same time. So we have our legislation treats some matters as a crime and some others as an infraction, a penalty, not crime. So in the between, something that could receive because someone damaged a piece of art, for instance, it's a penalty, but it's not reported to us because it's not, we have a small crime for the damage of an art piece, for instance, but it goes under our radar. And we know that sometimes criminal actors work by tentatives. So we don't have always the primary law knowledge of what has happened. We also have a lack of training on more knowledge than training. Of course, the knowledge we have by training, but on the international conventions. Not every one of the investigators are very familiarized with the conventions, even with the national legislation. And I think it's very important also, it was spoken in the morning, that the operatives that work in this kind of crimes must have some background, historic historical, archaeological, artistic background on the matter, because it's not the same to look at a painting and it's ancient painting and it's a new painting. So I think this is important to know, to identify, to distinguish which is something with value and something with not that value. Technological training, yes, it's very important because we live, this is a time of technology, and technology must serve our purposes on catching the bad guys. So we need the training. We need to know what is being done for our, to be helpful to us, and we need to know where to search it, where to get access, how to work on it. This is our main needs. We have some tools, as I said before, but what I hear today here and in June at the EGG event, there is so much more that we can have, and I'm expecting to get there.
Now let's go to Cameron, because you have this broader view with all of the associated countries of the OSCE. So what are the main differences you observe in training needs across all of your OSCE countries in relation to illicit trafficking?
Thanks. Yeah, we do have 57 participating states and 11 partners for cooperation that we work with on a regular basis. So we've seen quite the gap, and not necessarily the same things in every single place, as you can imagine. When we're working with Central Asia, the biggest gaps or differences that we're seeing there is that those frontline trainees need to understand what they're looking at to get a better understanding of what the networks are. So there's a lot of familiarization with, what's coming from point A to point B, why might these things be important, and sort of what to look for specifically. Whereas when you go to, countries in the West for the EU, honestly, one of the places that one of the themes that we keep running into is just trying to get frontline officers to actually give a damn about what they're seeing. Again, they might want to go for the sexy item of a narcotics haul or a drug cache, but not necessarily look at the pictures inside a shipping container or the items on a wall in a narcotic trafficker's house. So we're trying to bridge that gap and help them to understand more or less what technology is there. Really help to break down the idea that they have to go it alone, because there are multiple tools, multiple platforms out there, mechanisms like the Heritage Crime Task Force and the OSCE program to combat trafficking that they can come to, where you can get answers in near real time. We can share ideas of who has what technology. Standardization, I agree, is a critical point, but standardization across, say, 28 or 27, let alone 57 states is going to take quite some time. It's not just going to be a relatively quick fix. So it's almost better to sort of compile who has what technology. And as an example for that, one thing that we're working on quite closely with Malta is our brand new Project Triton, which is underwater heritage crime investigations training for police and customs divers. But as part of that, Malta is working with us to not only help deploy sonar and side scanner technology, but also to do analysis of underwater 3D photogrammetry. And they've offered this to other countries that don't necessarily have that technology. So if they're able to get the technology or the photos, say, of a river dive or a cargo contamination, they're now willing to work with them to also work on the analysis of the photogrammetry. So it's not necessarily about having every single country have that piece of technology or training, but understanding who out there, or which country out there, or which organization is able to either facilitate that gap, or to help do the analysis or deploy the tools, or perhaps deploy the experts. And beyond that, the biggest thing we're also trying to show, or the biggest thing we're seeing, I should say, in terms of gaps or roadblocks to the training, is the siloed approach on everything. And one thing we constantly push is a cross-agency approach. Cross-agency is how we're going to make this thing, all this work at an international level. Customs has technology; they have technology labs that can be useful to police. Police have tools and training platforms that can be useful to forensic investigators, And we're trying to show what else can be done in the cyberspace, in the financial investigation sphere, and how this can all be put together. So there's some cross-network pollination, to use a horrible buzzword, that needs to be done, but definitely some awareness raising about what's there, who'd reach out to, and to take a different cross-agency approach.
Thank you, Cameron. Maybe because the time is running, let's go to conclude here. And I would like to ask each of you three panelists for a short statement. Imagine, if you could prioritize just one measure, technological, procedural, or training related, what would be the most empower LEAs in that field? What would it be? What would it be? Isabel.
It's a dream. So for me, it's a mix between a web crawler, an intelligence platform, and the databases, because what is lacking is a share of information. We know that the cultural goods are traveling very fast, and that means that the countries that the artifact is crossing, the countries' LOAs are not even aware of if the artifact has been stolen, looted or not. And so the share, in a legal way, for sure, of the databases, the national databases. We are all aware that we need to still improve our way to feed Interpol IDEART, because it's mainly Italy and France who are feeding it, and it's not enough because we know that many artifacts are not in these databases. So if we have the good web crawlers with the intelligence platform that will rebuild the criminal organizations and the databases with the knowledge of what have been stolen and looted, I think it will be already a miracle.
Thank you, Isabel. Cameron?
Thanks again. Those all sound great, Isabel. I definitely agree with the web crawler and databases and intelligence platforms. The one thing I will say from my point of view would be an expanded real-time communications platform between agencies. We are already building that, so I am happy and quite proud of that fact, but what I need is even more officers, even more frontline to talk about these things in real time. And, the bottom line is that, for us on the border management side, smuggling is smuggling, and an officer might be able to find inaccuracies in the paperwork or just have a suspicion about things and have the power to seize something, whether that's a modern painting, an ancient painting, or a handicraft versus an antiquity. Either way, if it's smuggling and there's some sort of criminal act there, just being able to have people talk in real time, whether it's customs to police to prosecutors, that's the sort of tool that I think we would need to really sort of get more people talking about this, and then spur that sort of knowledge and momentum to get more of this technology deployed to frontline officers.
Thank you, Cameron. And now to you, Paula.
So everything is said. I think one measure should be, one measure is not only one, because it has ramifications. If we go to the technology, and the technology is my prioritize, we have to have the training. So yes, for the technology to give us the proper web crawlers, the proper databases worldwide, the devices that would help us dealing with the field crime scene, and the crime scene that we also have nowadays online. So we have to track. And it's not the same to go after a criminal in the streets and to go after a criminal online. I'm sorry. So I would have to go for the technology, but with the training.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your valuable insights. So today's discussion with our panelists showed us clearly that there is a lot to do, a long way in front of us, but I think we're on the right way. We have two large organizations like Europol and OSCE that are our target group. We have to add them to our exploitation plan, a targeted group, because I think we have now some fans. But before I close the round table, I will open the floor now for questions, and I see here Mark is raising the hand. Maybe we have a microphone for him.
Very quickly, my name is Mark Miller. I'm the CEO of Conceptivity and also the Vice Chairman of the European Organization for Security. In 2012, we actually did, with your organization, OSCE, a handbook for best practices at border crossings. And this is directed at Cameron, but also at all of the panelists here. In that handbook that we did together, I was the main contributor and editor. We actually had a section on information technology, systems, software, as well as mechanisms for cooperation. And we had talked about, with your colleague at the time, Roel Janssens, about doing a further guide, let's call it that, on the available information technology, software, and also, again, mechanisms to break out all of the opportunities for the different OSCE members to be able to have a reference set of materials. Now, being part of RITHMS, one of our thought processes was maybe this could be an interesting opportunity to take and develop something which would include RITHMS, which would include a lot of other technologies which already exist with respect to cultural heritage. So my question basically is, would this be something interesting for OSCE, or perhaps Europol, or perhaps, again, one of the other organizations, CEPOL, or one of the other organizations here to take up? Because I do think that RITHMS offers a lot of opportunity for this cultural heritage, and there are a lot of other tools out there, including the tools that are already with TPC, the Italian Cultural Heritage Police. So again, just an idea, but a question. Is this a possibility? Thank you.
Happy to answer. Thanks for that, Mark. Long story short, we're already in the development stream of a brand new handbook for the OSCE participating states and partner countries, as well as make it globally available for other border management, law enforcement, and others. And part of that will include an evergreen, constantly updated section of available electronic resources, systems, platforms, etc. So we're still in the development stage, but once we get downstream, it's going to be going out to all the partners, including here with RITHMS and others, to talk about what should be included, what could be included, and what have we missed to then sort of disseminate outwards. So stay tuned for that. It is coming towards the end of the year.
Thank you, Cameron. Would you add something, Isabel?
I took note about the already existing handbook. I will try to get it, but for sure, all existing tool. It's not to recreate the wheel, and take base from what is existing, and as proved that it was efficient, relevant, and consistent. It's a good base for me. Yeah.
Okay, and here's Alfio. Next question. Please, a microphone for Alfio.
Thank you very much, first of all, for this interesting insight. I have a quick question for Isabel. The tools available on the Europol platform for experts are only for European states and states associated to Europol, or can be on a I don't know, dual basis with a specific system also shared with other countries?
for the time being, EPE and the Europol tool repository is open to the 27 member state LEAs and to the Schengen associated countries, meaning 4, Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Iceland, and Norway. We already received some requests because we used to work with Bosnia, Herzegovina, with Albania, and it's in the legal department's hands. For the moment, it's not possible, but we try to find a way to share with them as well, because they are our partners. We cannot exclude, notably the third countries are on the geographical Europe, and having them in the loop in tackling the illicit traffic of cultural goods, for example, but other crimes at the same time. But for the moment, is legally limited to member states and associated countries. I forgot to mention, nevertheless, we have a certain number of liaison bureaux which are over the 27 member states, because we have US, we have Japan, we have Korean, we have Australia, New Zealand, and we just signed with Singapore. We are Emirats Arab Unis, we say in French, sorry. We have a certain number, and by this way, it's possible for some of the LAs to access to some information by their liaison bureau.
But one question from my side here arises in that context. Would it be thinkable or possible to have like a bilateral contract or a joint agreement with the OSCE country LEAs? Because that would be a good beneficial co-working, because we're working together in the fighting cultural heritage crime. So give them all the same tools, the same toolbox?
On my level, I completely agree. It's to be discussed with our executive directors, but it could be really a good initiative to improve the tackling we have, because for the moment we are lacking of a certain number of tools, of reactivities, and all types of cooperation, sharing information in real time and so on will be very valuable for the investigators wherever they are working.
So maybe I can add here as last one wish, one dream from my side as moderator. So maybe we can take this criminal field of cultural heritage crime as example to make here a first joint venture together between European Innovation Lab and take RITHMS up there and share it with the USCD. That would be my dream. But
I will transfer to my executive director, Mrs. Catherine Debol.
Okay. And
we're happy to host you in Vienna anytime.
Do we have any questions left? If not, then I thank to the panelists for their time and for their contribution. Thank you very much for this, and I give the round table back to Ariana, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you to these last panelists, but also to all our panelists for their precious contributions today across the 3 round tables. So we are approaching the end of this very full day, and I would like now to introduce the screening of the long documentary that has been produced within RITHMS, within the work package of communication. It's the documentary Threads of Heritage. The movie director in this case couldn't be here today, but it's Brian Parodi, and it's produced by IIT. I take also the opportunity, I had forgotten to do it earlier, but I would like to thank personally also Salvo. Salvo, thank you very much for all your support during the conceptualization and the filming of the documentary, as well as I would like to thank a lot Silvia Valencia that supported also plenty during all the phases from the conceptualization phase up to the production. So we are very, and actually there is also Ruth here that the screen, yes, is one of the actresses in the documentary. And so I would like to really give our thank you for this part of the work that you have willingly undertaken, and you will see them also performing in the documentary. So the documentary looks at the problem of trafficking of cultural heritage from many aspects, and looking also to the work that has been done in the past years to disrupt the trafficking of cultural heritage. But it has then a focus on the work that has been developed during our project. For those that are not aware of that, it was first displayed in Italian Film Festival, the Film Festival of Florence, which is dedicated to archaeological movies, and it reached the second position among 82 movies that were submitted to the competition. So we are now, as I mentioned in other occasions, it is now going toward to another film festival, and we have a lot of other initiatives open. We receive really every day new requests for screening it. We received one also this morning, for example. So also, this is an invitation to everybody. If you see that there is an opportunity to screen it somewhere, let us know. We are happy to provide the necessary permission for the screening. So this said, if everything is ready from a technical point of view, I leave you with the documentary Threads of Heritage.
Cultural artifact is much more than a beautiful.
I had forgotten to tell you one other thing. These are just 15 minutes extracted from the total 45 minutes of the documentary. The link for the full vision of the documentary has been sent to all the partners in previous occasions. So if you didn't see it before, after seeing these 15 minutes is probably the correct time to go to look back for that link and have a look to this documentary that took really a lot of time to be produced, and it's a very nice example of communication. It has been praised also from the members of the European Commission when it was presented in several occasions. So I invite you all to look at it and let us know also what you think about it. So we are now really at the end. I have done most of, we have already thanked this morning all the partners and all the, not only the partners, but all the people that have been part in a way or another of this project. So I will not go back to that. But today we have also heard a lot of strong messages on the need for coherence between institutions, and on the ethical and legal frameworks guiding our actions, and on the technological and training priorities for the future. So this insight, we think, that will really enrich the legacy of RITHMS and guide the next steps in protecting our shared cultural heritage. We will finish the day with a visit of the small museum that is inside this complex. The visit will start in about 20 minutes time, so you have a little bit of time left if you need to make some phone calls or drink something, and then we will all move to the location of the museums. So finally, at the end of the visit, we will celebrate the conclusion of today's event with a cocktail reception in the cloister, again, the one where we had the lunch, and it is a chance to continue our conversation in a more informal atmosphere. I would like to thank you all again for your participation today, but most of all for your participation in the past 3 years of very challenging work, and to thank you also for the results we have been able to achieve within this project. Thank you again, and now let's go to enjoy the visit first and the cocktail after. Thank you.